Should get beer.
You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now. Hello. How's it going?
So we skipped the conference. We're actually out here on our own, a little cafe in Prague. No, we're here. We just can't show anybody because it's the Monero community, so nobody wants to be in the background. But there's a beautiful, nice crowd here. The venue is amazing. It's at Paralelni Polis, which is kind of one of the if not the epicenter of crypto anarchy. And it's just really cool, right?
It's really cool. It's a really nice place. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
Lots of people here.
Different vibe than Monerotopia, right? Monerotopia, especially with our marketplace.
Yeah,
right?
we have the marketplace and everything.
Like action. This has been amazing. The setup, the stage that they use for the speakers is like really beautiful, really professional. And it's just been great.
It's been awesome.
Speaker party last night
was really, really nice.
Yeah.
And then there was an after party, which we visited for a little bit. It was really nice.
But very chill vibes. Everybody's been drinking because it's Prague, right? So the beer is amazing. The Pilsner are they're just flowing here like water. People drinking water. People smoking cigarettes, right? I don't want to mention our special guest yet. Our first special guest.
Yes, exactly.
Who actually has become a waitress this weekend at Monerotopia and has earned quite a few Monero doing it. A little Monero entrepreneur.
A little dinero.
Let's bring her on, the waitress. I think she's serving me some mate. Hey, jump on.
Hello, guys.
As she collapses. How's it going? Say hi to Tux.
Hi, Tux.
Hi.
Fran, how's MoneroKon been?
It's fun.
What have you been doing?
Serving this.
What is this?
Ta-da-da.
Yes.
What is it called?
Ta-da-da.
Ta-da-da. And it's basically like
Ta-da-da.
mate, right?
Yeah. It's called mate, and I think it's really good. I also served coffee and water.
Did you make? I know you were walking around. Do you still have your little QR code? Oh, it got destroyed.
No, I took it off.
Did you make any tips? Were people tipping you? I just serving them coffee.
I made a lot of tips.
What are you gonna do with the Monero?
So many things.
Keep it. You're gonna you want me to buy it off you for something else?
I want to save it.
Nah.
Hey, right choice.
Or I will help with the tea because the woman who's doing it, she's doing it for free, and the tips that we're getting, I'm gonna use the Monero to maybe get more stuff because we're kind of running out of supplies, the stuff that you put in there, like that.
So you're gonna use the Monero you earned to go buy more supplies? That's nice.
If we need supplies, yes.
She says if.
Have you had any good conversations here? Have you been talking to a lot of people?
Yes, and someone was doing what's it called? A presentation, and I asked a question, and he was stumped.
Yes, you did. It was a pretty good question, actually. What was it about? It was.
So basically, he was talking about that you have to show your identity and stuff for all this stuff, and I was like, is it good that you have to do that, or is it bad? And then he did this explanation that imagine if you went to an ice cream store and you bought ice cream, and all you had to do is give the money, and then you could walk past, and then the other person, your friend, had to get his face all recognized, all that, just to get the ice cream. And then I said, so does this mean that some people have to do more than the other people do? And he said he got confused. And then another person, a guy in a donut T-shirt, he explained to me that if your face doesn't exactly match what the picture says or what your description says, then they have to do all the extra information.
But overall, do you think people should have to get their picture taken if they want to buy an ice cream?
No,
Right? That would be weird if that was the case, right?
I don't have to do that.
Do you think people should have to get their picture taken or anything if they wanted to buy Monero?
But that doesn't happen.
That
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. People want that to happen
Why?
because the government wants to know who's purchasing Monero and how much of it they're purchasing.
But the whole point of Monero is so no one does that.
Exactly. So as you can see, guys, she fits right in at the crypto
Finding
anarchy.
out.
yeah.
All right,
She's
baby
learning
girl.
a lot here.
Actually,
Careful with the cords,
we
the wires.
can we hire you as a waitress right now to get us 2 beers at the bar over there?
What type of beer?
Pilsner, please.
Got to keep the drinks flowing.
Gotta keep the drinks slow.
Anything goes here at Paralelni Polis.
Yep.
Um,
I guess you
Yeah,
want to
so
move on.
Franny's been having an amazing time, and so have we. Let's move on. Let's move on to price report, and then we got
And
a
the
bunch
dev segment, then we have a bunch of guests.
amazing guests. We'll
Yeah.
we'll try to pull them in
Slowly,
as
one
we
by
go. We're looking at an amazing group of people right now.
So we don't want to lose them.
They're all
So
chilling
let's,
there, drinking their beers across from us. So I don't know how long they'll hang around. Let's do price report,
Let's
and then
do
we'll
price
try
report.
to start pulling people in.
Okay. Hold on a second. The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer.
Hey everyone, this is Bawdyanarchist coming at you with the price report pre-recorded on Friday evening. Obviously, the big news is that Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin, but crypto in general, made a big pump this week. So we're going to start with looking at the macro as usual. We'll just run through that really quickly, and then we'll talk about crypto since that's the big news. Okay, so we're looking here at the dollar index. This is the long, sort of a long-term chart where we had the peak last year, and then we got these two important resistance lines. And basically the dollar kind of bumped up against that. This is a little bit of strength. Basically, we spent some time trying to break through that, came down, and then sort of stopped halfway. To me, overall, this chart looks like it has the potential for reversal. This is a long-term chart, so it could play out over longer time frames, right? It could take well until maybe Q3, Q4. For now, maybe I would kind of expect just kind of sideways action, something like that. Maybe we could finally get into this area eventually, fake out to the downside and then pump, just like crypto did. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't have to look like this, right? It could look a lot of different ways. But overall, I would suspect probably stability with the dollar here. Let's go ahead and take a look at now at the Federal Reserve balance sheet. If you guys remember, we had the big pump in March. The Federal Reserve had to expand their balance sheet to sort of paper over the banking crisis. But they were mostly short-term loans, so it's not surprising that we saw this thing drop back down. Over the last week, this thing fell. And the Federal Reserve, if we are to believe what they say, and overall they have basically done what they said they're going to do, this thing will probably continue slowly going down. The Federal Reserve says they want to sell off the balance sheet, and I think I believe them. So overall, this going down over long time frames could end up weighing on the markets. Again, maybe not too incongruent with how this Dixie chart looks, right? This thing might eventually sort of decide to break to the upside, and that could kind of be congruent here with a little bit of bleed out in the Federal Reserve balance sheet. Taking a look at the S&P 500 here, you'll notice that we talked last week about this this sort of rising trend line here. and that this might be a reason to expect some resistance, and that's kind of what we got. So if you're trading stocks, we're really looking at the potential for kind of a top and reversal here. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to just like crash, crash and burn or anything, but this thing has a lot of momentum, right? Like, that's a really big move. We could see a reversal, maybe even make a slightly higher high, and that wouldn't be, too crazy to see. But I tend to think that most of the gains that the stock market is going to make have already largely been made. You can kind of see the same thing here with the NASDAQ, right? We talked about this spot as being a significant point of resistance. And indeed, it has actually seen the market come back down. So it also, there's the idea here that there could be some rotation from stocks into crypto at this moment. We have seen with BlackRock, and we've seen some of these institutions are expressing a little bit more willingness, perhaps, to regard crypto, or at least Bitcoin, with a bit more respect. So, but at the same time, you will talk about this later. I want to caution you guys against really buying hook, line, and sinker into this BlackRock narrative about how, how the institutions are here and the FOMO and it's time and all this stuff. Like, you got to be really careful about that. It feels kind of similar to the end of 2020, especially the beginning of 2021. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But that's basically the macro for you. If you're a TradFi guy, things tend to move slowly. Things don't kind of just break out like Bitcoin just did. Don't expect to be getting mad gains here with the stock market. It's probably not going to happen. It could take some time and consolidation. If things are going to go higher, it's probably going to take some consolidation here. Okay, so let's go into, there's Monero, actually. You know what, why don't we just talk about Monero? The chart's there. That's Monero versus Bitcoin, but let's go to the Monero versus the dollar. So we talked about last week how, we've kind of got like this bear market channel, how we sort of firmly came back into that channel. But we also talked about how the TA on Monero necessarily, wasn't behaving as well as we might like it to, right? Like this action right here, you really kind of expect that to break to the upside. And I guess that's kind of what happened without, with this little fake out to the downside first. The other thing too is that Monero is a small market cap coin, and the small market caps just don't behave as sort of nicely, predictably as maybe the larger market caps do. So, we broke down what was really a very long trend line, and then we just shot right back up to the upside. So at this point, we basically fully broken out from the sort of like bear market downsloping resistance line. So that's nice to see. We'll see how long that can continue. I guess it seems reasonable to suspect that if crypto and Bitcoin continue moving up, that Monero should experience positive action from that. Okay, so this is the Monero Bitcoin chart, and you'll notice that this line down here is sort of like the very long-term support line, basically from the lifetime of the chart. So these lines can be, they can be a little bit fuzzy, right? Like if we draw it this way, we're kind of not quite connecting that spot down there. So maybe we could move it up, but when we do that, you see it kind of like broke down for just a moment with some wicks. But anyways, this was not surprising. We really, by all means, at the point that we started playing in this range, we really had to expect that we were going to be somewhere down here at the bottom of this support line eventually. So, we'll just have to wait and see how this goes here. We could take a look at the divergences and see that basically they've been on the positive side here for most of the week. All the different exchanges have been offering slightly more than Kraken to acquire Monero. So again, this is probably just them trying to keep the doors open, trying not to look too much like scumbags. Let's take a look here at Monero versus Ethereum. This right here you could arguably try and call this a bottoming pattern. I'm not necessarily totally convinced by that, but again, we'll just have to see. At the very least, we've at least gotten out of this downsloping channel here. So we'll see how that goes. Again, for me, Monero is a hodl. I don't really like to trade it that much. Part of the reason, is because this crazy action that sometimes happens there, where you just like dip down and then break to the upside. Okay, so let's finish off here just looking at the crypto market in general. That's total, but let's start with Bitcoin because dominance was the thing that was really going up this past week. So this chart should be pretty easy to understand. We drew this line here last week where we sort of just connected those points and said, hey, that might be a spot for support, and it certainly seemed like it was. That was also a spot where the August top was, in that spot. So these were all kind of like convergences of support. And like we said last week, that fat lady had not yet sung. So to expect that, we could potentially get a move to the upside. In terms of the shorter structure, we had this, we had the descending wedge, and we basically just with momentum violently broke out of that. So at this moment, we're headed up towards this this resistance point that was set last June, and then we're kind of making our way out of this, out of the last summer, or sorry, June, the summer of 2021. Right now, we've got momentum. Right now, this thing could even break this area with momentum. However, there are some important statistical levels, moving averages and standard deviations that are hanging out right around 33 area. I would expect that 33 area could be difficult to broach. If we wanted to try and make the case that Bitcoin could actually make it to 45 or 50,000 on this sort of mid-cycle run, what we want to see is basically breaking this line with momentum, right? Breaking this area with momentum, and then probably taking a pause at some of those statistical levels, and then consolidating, and then maybe going for another big move to the upside. So that's personally what I would want to see to try and get long with my short-term stack. As I told you guys last week, my long-term stack or my long-term trading stack was still in play. I was just reducing my risk by getting out of the short-term plays, and then of course, the hodl is the hodl. You don't sell that. So at the moment, things look like they're on the positive side for Bitcoin, and especially for Bitcoin dominance. We're reaching these sort of horizontal areas of significance, right? You could draw that from back there. The other thing is this yellow line here. That's just an eye marker for some very long-term standard deviations. So I do think that this thing could top out all the way at 53. I would expect to at least make 52.5 and then probably to 53. At which point, we might be able to see a bit more of an altcoin run. There could be some excitement there. Perhaps, maybe not. The last thing that I'll leave with you guys is just sort of a general warning on what we're seeing and what we have seen with some of these narratives. To me, the big news is that Binance and the SEC reached a deal by which Binance would not have their funds frozen. They would just have to repatriate to the United States. Now, that's important because Binance is a big factor in price. And as we know, there is a significant amount of sort of rigging and fraud and sort of paper trading that happens to help push the price up. So with Binance still in play, that sort of makes them able to push the price up here. I think that the ETF with the BlackRock ETF is more so of a social phenomenon. It's more so of like social thing. It's not yet fundamental buying pressure because it's not yet available. It's just an application. So just know that you need to tread carefully. But things look kind of positive right here. So good luck to everyone out there, and I hope you guys have fun at MoneroKon.
All righty.
All right. The price report. Yeah, I've been completely ignoring the price for the last couple of days. Just drinking Pilsners and listening to Monero talks. So actually, you want to pass me my beer?
Sure.
All right. So we're gonna jump to the guests since we have. Oh, let's do the segment. Yeah, run the segment.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by CakeWallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. CakeWallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right. We had to jump to the guest segment because we had some heavy hitters over here that we caught. I think they were in a game of Smash Bros, but we were able to pull them over. We got Luke Parker and Co. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Hello.
just enjoying all the presentations and the company.
Yeah,
I'd say mainly the same. It's really great just to see everyone. I mean, we got Aaron, we got Justin Berman, we got Co, we got the other Justin, we got Doug and Sunita. Very happy to see you too.
Yeah, no, this is beautiful. And from our perspective, it's nice not running the conference, we're just participating in the conference. We get to enjoy it a little bit more. What's been your kind of greatest moment so far in terms of talks? Is there anything where, like, any talk that kind of sticks out in your mind is, oh,
Can I say my own?
yeah. I mean, I think yours is fantastic, but yeah, I guess you could say your own. You could show everybody what your true personality is.
If I'm picking out someone else's, Co's talk with the Xano people on Zarcanum, I thought was really well done and really well explained from the technical side.
Fantastic.
I enjoyed the M-Proof Plus talk, learning about reserve proofs. It's something I thought about before.
Now, I missed that talk. I'll like to grab him for an interview. But kind of what's the summation there? Is it possible to do proof of funds with Monero? Is it easy to implement?
Well, we do have reserve proofs today, but you leak the key images of the outputs which you're proving are owned by you. So then when they're spent in the future, it's easy to identify, which isn't ideal from a privacy perspective.
Personally, while I appreciate the work done on mProof and mProof Plus, I believe anyone who is trying to prove reserves and so on are acknowledging that they're giving up their privacy in the name of attesting that they actually have the balance. So while I appreciate the work of mProof and mProof Plus in proving they have reserves, I'm less concerned with versions which further try to increase privacy, because exchanges should be signaling the outputs they own, in my opinion. While that does allow foreign entities, chain analysis, whoever, to dismiss those outputs from the output set, those exchanges could already be handing over those outputs to those services anyways. And as Monero users and not corporations, we have to make that assumption anyways. So
I agree.
I appreciate mProof Plus trying to not have that privacy leak, but personally, I think the best value is just being very transparent about it on the exchange side to ensure their integrity.
Okay. Are any exchanges doing proof of funds with Monero?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, and that's kind of the second issue. If they're not using the existing Monero reserve proofs, why are they going to be touching mProof
Right.
Plus?
Didn't Binance make a reserve proof and then they got called out for it being illegitimate?
I don't know.
I think they proved assets. They didn't prove liabilities. So like they proved they had X amount of money, but it wasn't clear how much was owed, how much was user funds, so on and so on. But I think they excluded Monero from that.
Oh, okay.
So
Now, normally I like to keep it on the tech with you guys, but there have been big developments, right, in Europe. Like Binance did delist Monero and a bunch of other quote-unquote privacy coins, and then I think they relisted a bunch of cryptos, including Zcash, but not Monero. Any opinion there, or are you even aware of this?
Yeah, I think it's from a business point of view that you're really sensitive to political pressure. So I don't necessarily blame them for being sensitive to political pressure, but I do think it's unfortunate.
Regulation isn't really my strong suit. Whenever I have regulatory questions, I just point to this guy here. They don't appreciate that. They keep insisting they're not a lawyer, but I keep pointing to them.
They just happen to know the law really well. It's not legal advice.
I understand why centralized exchanges have all these concerns, and personally, I think that emphasizes why we need atomic swap solutions. Earlier, Elizabeth did a great presentation on Ethereum, Monero, atomic swaps. Farcaster had a workshop here to try to get people more involved with Bitcoin and Monero. And yeah.
What else do you think needs to be done there with atomic swaps? Because it feels like the tech is there. It's just we're not really seeing adoption with it, right? Is that fair? Is that a fair assessment, or it's not further enough along to where we would start to see adoption?
Well, I don't really know too much about the market for atomic swaps, so
okay,
it's hard to say.
There's definitely.
Am I on now?
Yeah.
So
we got Justin just jumped in. There are Monero celebrities lurking everywhere here, so we're gonna have different people jumping in.
Everyone here is amazing.
Yeah.
My honest opinion on atomic swaps is they are the option of last resort for most people. Even if you spent a lot of effort in making the user experience as good as possible, you still have a few fundamental challenges to it. So assuming there are other parties out there that you can trade with that you trust enough not to steal your money, and you're willing to take that risk, and often people do in real life, then people probably won't resort to atomic swaps unless they have to. But nevertheless, it's good for quality tools like this to exist should people need to switch to it, and then also in order to capture the market of people who do prioritize mitigating counterparty risk as their primary instead of behind trading.
I almost entirely agree with that. The one additional class of people I'd say is people doing very large OTC deals. If I wanted to buy $10 million of Monero, I could probably deposit that to Kraken. I wouldn't want to go to Kraken. I would want to do an atomic swap with whoever my counterparty is. I wouldn't want to do any middleman at all. Though it's because of agreeing with what Justin said overall is kind of why I'm working on Serai, which is meant to be that middle ground of decentralization, minimized trust, high security, but also accessibility UX and not burdening the user.
And always having the liquidity there for
Exactly,
people to interact. But back atomic swaps, do we see maybe there's like some kind of implementation that can happen in something like Cake or Monero or local? Maybe like initially it would be like local Monero, right? You see things going down that way, so to kind of create usability through.
I'm not too deep into local Monero, but I believe the large majority of it is cash trades, and that can't be represented as an atomic swap. So, well, local Monero would definitely be.
Well, there's crypto to crypto. Yeah, obviously most of it is cash, but
what small percentage is that? One of the Elizabeth things was talking about getting an in-browser version of atomic swap, so you don't have to download additional software.
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
And she said that would have been very difficult to do, and it can be done. I believe it's been done once before for Monero, but it is difficult. And if the local Monero infrastructure works well enough right now, why throw in this technology that fails if you go offline?
Okay.
From my perspective, there's a bunch of moving parts, and because we always like to look sight into the end user experience and figure out who wants that particular end user experience of what it would look like, things just really haven't matched up to this point. I don't want to say that it's definitely not possible, because that's just not true. There are ways that it can be done, but we haven't invested a lot of effort into it because you would need to have a user who's like extremely focused on that counterparty risk, because they that's very important to them. But then you'd also need them to be aware or able to deal with the situation with low liquidity and have a lot of patience. And a lot of people don't have a lot of patience. The vast majority of our wallet users don't have patience to wait the 20 minutes to send Monero again after they receive it in an exchange, let alone wait for someone to maybe possibly be online or not.
Right.
And then you also then have to deal with, okay, well, what if someone wants to take a trade of yours? Are we going to send a push notification to people telling them that someone wants to take a trade? How are we going to do that? We're going to use Google's API to send a push notification?
Right.
So who wants to use an atomic swap, but then also Google's API? So then we need to have a different implementation, which then has delays and has battery challenges.
Right.
So when you actually talk about what it would take to have the user experience to what we want it to look like, it ends up building a product that is
where you lose the value
much
of
more
atomic
niche than I think
swaps.
most people would admit.
Okay.
Have you considered building the Cake phone, a hardware wallet done from scratch that connects to LocaMesh and uses Covery to anonymize its internet connection to perform atomic swaps on a
Are you announcing that here today?
That would
Cake
be
phone.
impressive. LocaMesh and Covery to plug into something.
I can call Vic right now and get them to promise to do this.
We miss you, Vic, by the way. Cheers to Vic.
It's one of those challenges where it's hard for us to justify at this time when there are as much there's other low-hanging fruit, like auto-generating sub-addresses, for example, in the receive screen. We have a pull request for that. It's an alpha. People can test it now, but that's a much more obvious thing, I think, for us to work on.
Okay.
And for better or worse, in the exchange partners offered in Change Now, there is counterparty risk for that, but none of these partners have ever just stolen people's money, despite the potential risk of it. Does a risk exist? Yeah, but in practice, there are a lot of people seemingly willing to accept it for now, because the UX trade-off is just so large otherwise.
Right.
So I want to minimize that trade-off, but it's still going to exist.
Luke, where are we at with Serai? What's the latest? I know today your presentation here wasn't on that. We'll get to that because I think it was one of the most exciting.
So
but what's your Serai update?
I started saying this roughly about Monerotopia. I think I said with about 2 weeks of work, we could hit testnet. Then I proceeded to spend the next 2 months on my presentation. So on the one hand,
so you're blaming it on us?
Serai is very close. On the other hand, I have not worked on Serai for about 2 months now.
Shit. these conferences are slowing down the production of Monero.
Not the conference, but the work I announced at the conference.
Okay.
Yeah, like his presentation was not the.
No,
Two
the
months of work.
presentation took like half an hour to an hour.
No,
the
obviously.
work contained in it.
Did you not like the look of the presentation?
The developing of the concepts. No, I get it. So let's get into that. So Serai is 2 weeks away.
2 weeks of work.
Yeah.
If I go back to work, turns out I'm on vacation these next couple of days.
But full membership proofs.
Yes.
That was your presentation. Something that a lot of people have been talking about, but you kind of boiled it down to a presentation where you're basically saying it's practical, it's on the horizon, we can do it. Here's on a high level how it can be done, and here's what the implications would be. Right?
Yes and no. I would like to start by saying Monero has a pseudo inactivity problem. There's obviously Monero development. Co's worked hard on Seraphis. A bunch of other people have been working on Seraphis. Justin Berman works on wallet integrations, making sure that wallets are very fast, quick, expedient, easy to use. Obviously, we have Justin Ehrenhofer here, leading Cake, being the forefront of Monero adoption in that way. So it's not like Monero doesn't have developers and they aren't doing anything. But whenever something new is discussed in Monero, it's not like we're a company. It's not like, oh yeah, just start assigning the interns to that and let's schedule one of our researchers to work on it. No, Co's working on Seraphis. Everyone else is doing their things. And if you want to do something new, you have to bring in the people to do it or snatch someone up when they have the free time. So in that way, it's difficult for Monero to start new tasks and actually step forward. So what my work was announcing wasn't, hey, let's talk about full chain membership proofs. It's I've stepped forward and I've done full chain membership proofs. So now we don't have to, spend weeks finding a cryptographer we trust to do it who has the time. We don't have to spend weeks having them do it. We don't have to present the problems. But most of the very academic, very cryptographic work has already been done. And now it's shifting into discussing with the Monero community as a whole, discussing with everyone how we want to shape this format, productionize it, and then deploy it. And when we discuss integration of this, integration isn't, oh, you have to have a PhD in 3 different math courses. No, it's integration is hooking up the wallet utilities, making sure it works well in consumers, making sure that we understand the new flow for creating transactions. And that's something very accessible to all of the Monero community and isn't like, well, that's going to take months. I'm not going to touch that. There's no way I could do that. It's, okay, yeah, I'll sit down and spend a few hours getting the new terminology and I'll move forward. So that was my work. It's taking that step to getting so much of it done to the point anyone can continue it.
What changed, right? Because it was always like full membership proofs always felt like it was much further away than what you proposed yesterday. Was it this just change in thinking that it's not Moon Math now we understand it better because of what the implementation we've seen in Zcash? Is that part of what's going on there? Why is the Monero community now all on board and ready to do this?
So I really have to consider from my personal point of view and my personal experience. At the Monerotopia before the last one is actually when we started discussing with like Seth and everything. And a few months later, Seth created a tracking issue for full chain membership proofs in Monero. And that's kind of been the discussion point for this specific endeavor. Not that Monero hasn't discussed it for years. And I had done some on and off attempts at it. They never really got anywhere. I didn't have the experience at the time. But recently, between the Curve Trees paper, some loose discussions with Aaron and Firo about eventually organizing on full chain membership proofs because we can use a very similar proof for both our work in Seraphis and Firo's work in Levantis Spark. About 2 months ago, I was in Austin at Consensus with a few Monero people and friends. Justin was there. The other Justin was there. Seth was there. And one of the things I was talking about is doing curve trees. I'm like, yeah, we just have to do the bulletproofs, and then we'd have to do the curve trees. And wait, this is a few weeks of work. This is manageable. And it was just kind of in that discussion it clicked for me. And I just kind of started on it, and then it drifted apart because as much as I would love to spend 2 months on it, I didn't have the time. And then Justin Berman and I made a certain work exchange. I do something for them. They do something for me. And the thing I did for them was building out this proof of concept. A few weeks later, I had it, and I really enjoyed working with it and wanted to make it the best it could be. So I spent an extra few weeks just really hammering it and getting it solidified.
Amazing. And what was kind of news to me is that there's a consideration that it could be implemented with Seraphis, with the initial implementation of Seraphis. Is that possible? Is that something that's... am I getting that wrong?
That's something... So I haven't prior really discussed this with the Monero community at large. I only told Co about this a day before my presentation for a few reasons. Nothing against Co. I just knew they were busy and with Seraphis and everything, and I didn't want to drag them into this development effort, so I just kept focused on it and wanted to make sure I had something before I talked to anyone about it. So this hasn't really been discussed with the Monero community at large. So while this theoretically could be integrated with Seraphis, we can also continue doing Seraphis with Groodle and later move to Snarks. There's a lot of discussions, and I'm going to have to attend the Monero Research Lab meeting next week to start making my pitches. But if you want to talk about that, I think we have to ask Co.
Yeah, that's basically who the question was directed to.
To get full chain membership proofs implemented in Seraphis and then released to production with the first version, we need a clear integration with the existing code base and solid performance numbers and robust security system analysis. So I think all of these are possible. Whether or not they will occur is up to labor.
Yeah.
And does it become the long-term item for implementation of Seraphis, or
Well, hopefully not. I mean, it's one of those things where it could be. It's a more challenging path to do it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But Monero, if it took the easier path now and then had to do this later, there'd be 2 difficult network upgrades. And I would prefer for us to, get these sooner, because I don't think people realize just how bad Monero's ring signatures have been specifically for targeted surveillance cases. And being able to remove a lot of the challenges with ring signatures, and also things like the lock time on send transactions and the user experience there. But
that doesn't go away with Seraphis necessarily.
That's not directly
Right.
affected.
Okay, never mind that. Scratch that last point. But even as it relates to just ring signature privacy, it's just such a monumental step forward that, in my opinion, it is worth giving it our damnedest attempt to
get that going right away.
Granted, I'm not saying sacrifice security and stuff. I'm just saying the review process and the work process.
But you're saying initially implement Seraphis without full membership proofs, because we could get there faster, and then
I think that having 2 network, personally, my own personal view is 2 difficult upgrades of that would be worse than a short additional extra period of time for 1 difficult upgrade.
1 difficult upgrade. Gotcha.
I do have one slight clarification. There's actually 3 paths ahead. My work on full chain membership proofs requires something called a curve tree. Or sorry, not curve tree. That's the proof. Sorry, curve cycle. Curve cycle. It requires a curve cycle.
Curve cycle.
So there's 3 paths ahead. 1, we do Seraphis, as it's prior been discussed, and that's it. 2, we do Seraphis with the Groodle proofs, but we also include the curve cycle. So we can add the curve cycle and still use Groodle, or we can add the curve cycle and do full chain membership proofs. Or we can not add the curve cycle and still do one of those 2 things. The thing is that if we do Seraphis without adding the curve cycle, then we're either kneecapping ourselves on performance. These proofs are going to be twice as expensive, twice as big, and utter and hell to deal with. Or we move to a curve cycle later, and that would require throwing out all of the old addresses, creating new addresses, and new privacy pool. So that would be a difficult upgrade, like Justin is saying. If we do the currently discussed Groodle proofs with a curve cycle, then later we can move to full chain membership proofs without such a strenuous hard fork. It's just, wow, I wish we could have had these sooner.
Because we're not changing address types and things like that.
Right. Once we move to the curve cycle, that's the over the hill. Just like once we move to Seraphis, that's the over the hill. The issue now is we have 2 hills. So ideally, we just get 1 big hill and not 2 separate hills. But one of the things I'm hoping with the proof of concept and work I put forward is that even if we don't deploy it with Seraphis, it at least justifies moving to a curve cycle with Seraphis.
I would say that to move to a curve cycle without implementing any proofs using the curve cycle, we need a 90% or higher prediction that we will in the future need the curve cycle, because I think it would be a real blow to the project to make a major cryptographic change and then not actually need it as things move forward. So that's something I'm very worried about. Is we really want to be very, very confident that this is the right move.
I'd agree with that. I'd also say that I would sign off on 90%. I can also point to a few other things. I'm sure we can get into the nitty gritty privately later, but
no, do it out in the open. Come on, let's
do all the cryptography.
I mean, the worst case,
fully transparent.
The worst case would be we move to the curve cycle. A curve cycle means instead of having one elliptic curve, we have two elliptic curves that play off each other. It's a whole thing. So,
well, that was also news to me too. I didn't realize we'd be switching elliptic curves, but now you're saying it's not even so much. We would have
So we have the current elliptic curve ED25519. We'd be switching to another curve that has a complementary curve that play off each other.
Okay, and that allows for what? Why is that necessary?
I'll try to keep the math minimal.
If you can't explain it, then you don't know.
No. Elliptic curves are made up of two types of things: scalars and points. Right. Scalars are big numbers. They're used as your private key. Points are
easy to
an X and Y coordinate, kind of like the graphs you did in high school. And they're an X and Y coordinate, and they're your public key. So when you do these, you have your private key, and if you have your private key, you can sign signatures, but you give out your public key, no one can go from your public key to your private key. That's why elliptic curves are used in all these places, because it's hard to go from a public key to a private key, or rather, it's hard to go from a point to a scalar. When we do zero knowledge proofs, the variables are the scalars, these very big numbers. And then we hide them, obscure them, do all this stuff with them via converting them to points, and everyone in the public gets the points. This is all hand wavy. I'm sure Ko or Aaron could smack me on the head for the way I'm putting this. But just to wrap it up, so basically our variables are these big numbers, the scalars. With the curve cycle, it has the scalars and that has the points, which are X and Y coordinates. But the other curve has its scalars as the other curve's X and Y coordinates. So one of them has the point numbers, it has two numbers, the X and Y coordinates, but they're one type of number. And then the scalars, another type of number. The other curve flips it. So that means that one of them has variables as its scalars. The other one has variables of the other one's points.
And that allows you to
work with points efficiently, despite points not being variables, by switching to the other curve. You do your math, and then you switch back to get those points on this curve. It's a thing. Sorry if I didn't do the best in explaining it. But the worst case, if we move to a curve cycle, if we don't end up using it, is we switch to another curve, and now we have two curve libraries, and we just don't use any of the reasons we switched over. If we don't use this curve cycle, it's still a perfectly valid elliptic curve. It's not going to have it's not necessarily going to have reduction in security. It's just, why did we move off this elliptic curve for this one? Why did we put all this effort into moving and developing this new elliptic curve library if we're not going to use it? But the way the current research is, the curve cycles have very nice properties, and it's looking like the future of elliptic curve proofs, unless we discuss a different type of curves called pairing curves, which are their own mess.
Does any of this possibly play into making Monero more quantum resistant in the future? Curve types and all this.
All of these are elliptic curves. All of them get screwed by quantum computers.
Okay. And also off topic, I've always heard, this idea that, Bitcoin obviously uses a different elliptic curve than Monero's. And, Monero is seen as being a safe curve, whereas Bitcoin isn't. Without understanding why. I would love to get some understanding of that. Is that like a real thing?
So Bitcoin uses SECP 256K1, which actually is part of a curve cycle. it's part of a curve cycle. That's lucky for Bitcoin, though they don't use the other curve at all. Monero uses.
Oh, so they would have an easier time implementing.
Right. If they wanted to add full chain membership proofs, they wouldn't have to move curves. They already have access. So Firo also uses SECP 256K1. They don't have to look at yet another curve for this. Monero uses ED25519. The label safe curve literally comes from DJB Daniel J. Bernstein's website, Safe Curves, which is a bunch of criteria for curve safety.
But he's like an extremely legit guy, right? I mean,
they have their fans and the people who hate them. But what I want
I'm trying to get him on the show. I got to get him on a Monero.
Safe curve,
Monero talk show.
While I do respect it as a benchmark, it only counts a curve as safe. It has a complete list of criteria. That list of criteria is a bit dated. Some of them can be questioned. So like SECP 256K1, I forget exactly why DJB says it doesn't meet all of the criteria, but the criteria it doesn't meet are questionable in benefit, or sure, it's would be nice to have, but we don't need it. So it's not that SECP 256K1 isn't safe. It's just not listed as a safe curve by Daniel Bernstein.
In light of mercy. Co, any comments on any of that?
That's accurate.
So for me to be out there being like, Monero has a more trusted curve than the Bitcoin.
You could say according to one guy.
I think.
Well, isn't it also it was developed like, all right, was Bitcoin's curve developed essentially by the NSA, and our curve developed by like open source devs? Like, is there clarify all this?
P256. P256. SECP 256K1 is also known as K256. But P256, I believe, was the more popular curve when Bitcoin started. And it was the question, why was K256, SECP 256K1 chosen? And I believe the rumor for that was because the P256 curve had some more questionable origin and may have been backdoored. And accordingly, SECP 256K1 was slightly better. But I'm not sure either of them have their parameters fully published, like the reasoning for them. But despite not having the reasonings for the parameters fully published, I don't believe anyone has active concerns about their safety or them having a backdoor. It's just, I think ED25519, our current curve, went out of their way to specify how all these parameters were generated to make extra sure and not even allow the question to stand.
And so which curve would we be moving to for full membership proofs? So we'd move.
Tevador proposed actually a variety of curves. We wouldn't be looking at any prior stated curve. I'm not going to say, it's easy to find one. Grab a pen and paper. We'll find 10. But no, there are scripts to find them, and there are methods for finding them. It's how they've been developed over the years. It's not someone 10 years in a lab with beakers and test tubes. It's mathematical programs.
And Tevador is developing one that would be tailored towards our needs.
Right. So they modified a script meant to find elliptic curves, to find ones with a specific optimization. And they've proposed a few which should be as fast as our current curve. Because our current curve, ED25519, is about 33% faster than Bitcoin's curve, which is a very nice property of it.
And so we'd obviously lose some of the speed, though, right?
Because of the ones Tevador's found, they would be just as fast.
Oh, wow.
And they would also have slightly nicer properties. Back in the day, like several years ago, Monero was potentially vulnerable to an octuple spend via torsion. I don't know if you've heard about this. You could spend a transaction 8 times by slightly editing the key image, thanks to a property called torsion. The curves which we would be looking at moving to are prime order, which means they don't have torsion and they don't have the consideration of every point has 8 different forms that are technically equivalent. So getting that out of the way would be pleasant.
So do we think that another project might lead the way here with would Firo kind of effectively lead the way with implementation of full proofs?
I think in some ways it's a race. I mean, they're doing their own independent work on getting similar types of work implemented on their system. They have a different specific set of work to do because they're a Bitcoin fork. But we're running in more or less the same direction. They are doing some other things with their protocol. For example, supporting multiple assets. Think kind of like an ERC20 token on Firo. And there's no interest in doing that on the Moneros, get consensus, those sorts of things. They're a smaller community. They are a little bit more organized, specifically on the development side. So I'm not saying that will mean they'll do it faster, but they're also looking at this.
But we would
working on it.
while they won't be completely analogous, we'll certainly learn a lot from their
Well-
implementation.
Well, what I
versus
was going
that,
to say is I am looking to collaborate. Technically, I've been talking with Aaron and Aram for a few weeks now about this, and I'm trying to talk with both of them later today about this as well. So my proof of concept, which I did for Monero, Furo's also looking at, and I believe going to base their research off of when the time comes. So while they might be first to deploy, just because they're closer to deploying Spark than we are to deploying Seraphis, I do want to collaborate with them on the actual implementation. And while they may be first to deploy, I don't think that makes them first develop it. I think that means we developed it together and they were
Right.
first to deploy.
Yeah, and it helps us all
I
along.
also think it's okay that like Monero isn't like I want Monero to implement this quickly because I know that the privacy improvement is major and significant.
But you want it to be responsible.
We don't have the privilege, or we don't have the benefit of being such a small coin that no one cares, right? We have a lot of people that care and need the stability. We can't hand wave some of the checks. Everything needs to be done very methodically.
Excuse me, I took the bulletproofs and I deleted all the math I didn't understand. That was most of
made
it.
so much faster.
I made it so much faster. I have the notes on a napkin. I thought you promised me we would deploy this, Justin.
Yeah. So you can on a separate fork that you make, which if Monero is able to invest like a considered effort towards getting these implemented, I think that's in a good state where we're not, just frantically rushing to patch something like something's broken, but we're moving to make something substantially better. I think that's, a good pace.
Right, and just for everybody's understanding, obviously we get a lot more privacy with full membership proofs, but like as you said in your talk, what are the costs at what cost?
Real quick, I just want to emphasize one more time just the level of privacy that it brings.
Mm-hmm.
So Seraphis with ring sizes of like 128, let's say, removes a lot of the like mass surveillance type issue or mass issues. Things like P2 pool mining outputs, things like mining pool outputs, or other various points of metadata that would help fingerprint things. It mitigates a lot of those sorts of attacks to a pretty substantial degree.
Mm-hmm.
Things like, the effective ring size is reduced on arbitrary transactions by like 20 or 30%, let's say, due to information from outputs. That's more or less solved with just a larger ring, right? But when it comes to targeted surveillance, if someone is interacting with someone who's sending them funds and that one person wants to investigate them more, Monero rings right now really suck at those types of things. And that's why you can watch a Breaking Monero, EAE.
Yep.
I personally still like the name poisoned outputs, but the idea that
Also known as Overseer. It's also known as Overseer.
Yeah.
Magic Monero Fund recently hosted fundraising for research on it.
Yes.
And I believe there's a Breaking Monero episode also featuring a guy named Justin Aronoffer. You should meet them sometime.
Yeah, and I calls it poisoned outputs there. And
Yeah, that's a great episode.
but like that doesn't go away unless a ring size of 1,000 would still result in this persisting, right? You need such a larger anonymity set for these types of protections. And then the only real answer around it is like, well, be careful who you interact with, or figure out how to do churning, which we don't still have good guides for, despite, again, Magic finding some research in that area right now.
And then there's also this one small improvement, but right now, like a node can feed you bad data about the decoys. So your wallet can make a very poor decision of what decoys to use. Under this full chain membership proof, a node can't feed you bad membership data. It has to give you accurate data. The most it can do is give you data from a week ago instead of the most recent, which will reduce you to whatever outputs existed on chain a week ago or a month ago, however long it selects. But it can't like eliminate you entirely.
It's nothing like a poor ring selection.
Right.
So anyway, it is
vast
important that people
improvement.
understand how major of a privacy improvement this is.
In terms of
So
who the signer is.
So
of the transaction.
that's the benefit. The benefit is if you want protection against targeted surveillance, you basically need this. Unless you're putting it in the hands of a user being vigilant on their own, which I don't want to have to do. Like it's just
right, because then we're back
sucks.
at Bitcoin again.
Then
right?
we're back at Bitcoin.
Yeah,
We're
we
kind of
might
like
as well
doing
be
like user blame, point
Yeah,
finger
yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. Right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely not.
those are the benefits. Now for the costs.
So it would increase transaction size to some degree. I believe right now we're looking at 700 bytes for 16 ring CL sags. Co, do you know how big the 128 Gradle proofs are?
They're not that big. Well, the transactions are like 2.5 kilobytes for 2 in and 2 out. So whatever
I think that's kind of close.
Is it like 4 times larger than?
Well, no, because currently we would be. It's about twice as large. So
is it the case that current to the Grudel Seraphis is about twice as large
for the membership proofs, I think. Okay. So I believe right now it's roughly 600 bytes for the CL sags. I think that would put Grudel at roughly 1 kilobyte, 1.2 kilobytes. I might be slightly off. I'd have to double check. Unfortunately, the full chain membership proofs go up to 4 kilobytes. So that is a bit larger, but it's not, 100 times larger. It's 4 to 5 times larger. The main thing to consider is going to be the performance costs. It's going to be about 6 to 7 times slower to verify once we get all the optimizations in. So that does mean either A, people have to have 6 to 7 times faster computers, assuming we're under load right now, which we aren't under load right now. And even when we have full blocks, we're not under load right now. Or B, we can only handle 6 times less transactions. So that it definitely is a consideration, but for the amount of privacy at stake, I don't see how we can say no, even if it is 6 times slower.
Just to get people, the initial implementation of Ring CT had, on a size basis, larger transactions than would be for this full chain membership proof implementation.
Mm-hmm.
And
how would this? Okay.
Right now, if you create it, you're allowed to create a transaction with up to 16 outputs, and we use bulletproofs to prove that all of those outputs are valid. If you take the bulletproofs for 4 transactions with 16 outputs, that's the amount of expense we're talking.
Mm-hmm. And so how would this potentially affect fees as well?
I think that's more of an Arctic Mind question.
I mean, you can roughly think the transaction is, I don't know, let's just, maybe fees will go up like 4 or 5x, some type in magnitude there.
I think in Arctic Mind's talk, they say that they want to increase the block size. If we grow the transaction size, they would want to increase the block size with it. And since fees are a function of block size usage, fees would stay the same. I think that's Arctic Mind's advocacy from their talk yesterday.
I don't think that's settled, though. Like, that's one of those things that still needs to be discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fees are basically, comparative to space, and space is a variable we get to play with.
Right.
I think Arctic Mind's goal is for fees to stay the same.
So it would just change the dynamic block size algorithm so that there'd be more space sooner, essentially.
They want fees to stay the same. I'm personally less invested in keeping fees as low as Arctic Mind's targets.
Mm-hmm.
But I want pressures to keep fees down, but I'm okay with them being more.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's going to be some back and forth, I think, on the fees specifically.
On that topic, do you see any issue with Monero's fees in terms of perhaps being too low?
I think
and
they're too low
subject
right now.
to spam attack. Is there any validity and a concern there?
I think the fees are too low, and I think the scaling is too aggressive with Monero currently.
But fees, what's the problem with fees being? Obviously, it's if we could have low fees, why not? But there's a problem there potentially.
Bloating, infecting rings for privacy regressions, which again, before full chain membership proofs is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty inexpensive to make a lot of Monero transactions right now, and the scaling permits you to make quite a few. So I think it's too permissive at the moment.
Okay.
But of course, Arctic Mind disagrees.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's really hard to decide what the fees should be. It's kind of an arbitrary question. So what we really want to do is get it kind of good enough, and then as long as most people are kind of okay.
But what are we balancing it against abuse, right? Like spam attacks and things like that, right?
Yeah, it's just some resource cost for spam, and you have to pick a number that's big enough that it deters spammers, and a number small enough that you can still use it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's known to be possible with a curve cycle And obviously, this is under current research. So if we discuss, oh, well, in the future, anything can happen in the future. But one of the things that's currently known to be possible with curve cycles is recursive proofs. So a ZK proof, it's self-verifying ZK proofs. So if we're discussing scaling, if we have a curve cycle, one of the known options on the table would be whoever mines a block kind of taking all of the membership proofs out of Monero transactions to just producing an even smaller proof that they were all correct. So there's a lot of interesting discussions on that path. And while it's far too early to start now, this is why I personally really like and want to emphasize moving to a curve cycle, because of the amount of possibilities it leaves us in the future.
Right. And basically you're saying that after first implementation, there's a lot of room for improvement, right? In terms of transaction speed and size, right?
Yeah. Right now we're looking at Bulletproofs Plus.
Right.
We're using Bulletproof Plus for our outputs. I did my full chain membership proofs work with Bulletproof Plus. We're currently doing academic review on Bulletproofs Plus, which would be tens of % faster and smaller. And ideally, yes, I would move my work over from Bulletproof Plus to that. And then there's also other academic work from the electric coin company behind Zcash of Halo, which is formalized and proven, and Halo 2, which is not formalized and not proven, yet was deployed for Zcash. And those would also be dramatically more efficient if done right.
All right, well, we'll let you guys move on.
We have an important talk to get to. Thank you, you two.
Thank you so much, guys. This is amazing that we got all three of you here at the same time. Thank you, Luke.
Happy to.
Which talk is coming up? Oh, right. All right. Yeah, maybe we'll get him after. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, we got it. No worries. You're good.
Don't worry about it.
You're good.
Hello, yeah.
All right, go grill a Rom.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
what
you,
happened?
Ko. What happened?
Nothing.
I got this, and then I lost this.
Oh, you got to figure out which mic
Okay.
it is.
All right.
Careful with the cord.
Oh,
Hello,
we got
another one.
More guests rolling in.
We do.
That was awesome.
He's
though.
patient, that was awesome.
I hope people. The sound was good on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful
Okay,
conversation.
yeah, sounded great.
Right?
Sounded great, right? Yeah. I was
like
like
being
trying
live
to
in the
mute.
Monero research lab, having combos.
It was a very intense conversation.
Good stuff, and very super exciting that full membership proofs isn't just a theoretical thing at this point. It's very much on the horizon for Monero. How's it going, man?
Well, it's fine. Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
so much for
Glad
patiently
to be
waiting.
here.
You can
Glad
move-
for the
You can move in a little bit. You
on
could
the
throw
show.
these on so you could hear us better, and then if anybody chimes in
Thank
online.
you.
Yep. Want to quickly introduce yourself?
I'm Michael. I work for Liberland as the Minister of Justice. That means an all-purpose lawyer. And we are building a country in the real life and on the blockchain, but mostly in the real life, between
Amazing.
Serbia and Croatia. The freest country in the world, the Singapore of Europe, a country oriented at freedom and at privacy at the same time, which was the topic of my talk at this conference.
How big is it? How big is Liberland?
3 Monacos. Let's put it that way.
3 Monacos.
3 Monacos.
So
yes.
how big is that? That's like
7 million meters square.
okay. All right. About in acres. Give me acres.
That's American.
Which is a stupid measurement, right? I love the metric system. Much easier, but I don't think in metric. That's amazing, man. And so, how much progress has Liberland made from conception to where you're at now?
A lot of progress, actually, because it began as an idea, and now it is a community of 700,000 supporters.
Amazing.
And
how many physical people?
Right now, there is a settlement going on. I don't know how many people. It's not like hundreds, but there are some there. And there is a border crossing point on boats, and we're live.
So you got to tell us? A lot of us here are hearing about it I mean, I've heard of Liberland, but never really learned about it. How did it even begin? And what were the steps that got you to the initial creation of?
So that was Liberland was created by the current president, Vít Jedlička, who used to be, who is an entrepreneur in Czechia and used to be a politician, that is, and his thing was to try to create something like a Swiss democracy in Czechia, a place of free market commerce, low regulation, classical liberalism. But then he realized that it might be easier to find your own country rather than to try to reform an existing one. So he and some other people found a place where there is no country, which is not Antarctica, neither it is Birtawil, an inhospitable part of the desert, but it's close by. It's in the Balkans. It's somewhere close to where we all used to go on holidays.
What was it before it became Liberland? Like, what was it legally? What was it considered?
So there was a dispute between Croatia and Serbia at the end of the Yugoslav war, and the dispute has, in very short, said that the status should be settled later.
So it's like a kind of a demilitarized zone type of thing?
Well, it was like reserved for the future settlement that, however, never happened. And so 30 years later, it was a no man's land, which is an international law accepted term. And that means that the land is free for a country to take it or to be founded on, which is the case here.
What are some other no man's lands that exist in the globe?
There is a part of Antarctica. There is a stretch of the desert between.
I'm just thinking of where we start our Monerotopia. So yeah, go ahead. Antarctica. I don't know.
I guess a desert would be like one of your best bets.
Yeah.
The problem is that there you have like the neighboring states do like monitor it. So
so desert where in Egypt, around Egypt there?
Like Eastern Africa. But it's you can Google it, Bertawil, but like there are other claimants, so you wouldn't be the first one, but the one who manages to actually turn that into the country gains it, right? So you still have a chance there. And then last but not least,
let's go, guys, let's go. This is we got a chance.
Yeah, last but not least, there are other such smaller pockets around Liberland, so it could become our neighbor.
Oh,
yeah,
that'd be nice. Then we could form treaties and work together.
But those have also
eventually unite.
Indeed, those have also been claimed. But again, if you would be the first ones to actually manage to build something there, like what counts is a real life success. We are working on our pocket. We're working on our land. We're trying to claim it, and we are there now. But the others aren't. So
yeah, is it fair to say you guys are the leaders in this area of creating a libertarian utopia somewhere?
Well,
I know utopia is a loaded word, but creating how you define it.
I don't want to be self-aggrandizing, but I think we are. We are the OG, and we are that by a long, long shot. The most serious, the biggest community, the oldest, the ones who actually had the idea for the first time. And we're not against anybody who would be serious, and that's the word serious, that's very important, and go there and be our neighbors in one of the other smaller pockets, But they have to be serious.
Have you had like any conferences there and things like that, or are people coming to Liberland?
Oh yes, of course. We are having twice per year. We have annual events close to Liberland, and we try to visit Liberland during those events. The closest to now is the Floating Man Festival, which is in August. In the beginning of August, begins 5th August. Feel free to attend. It's going to be a crypto conference like the one we are on. Web3 oriented, Polkadot oriented, if you know what that is, because those are our friends whose software we adapt for our own blockchain. But Monero is very welcome there as well.
Amazing. Maybe we'll host a Monerotopia conference there.
Indeed, that's very, very much possible. And we have a resort called Liberland Ark Village, which is close to Liberland, but it's in Serbia, so there are no issues with police presence and such. It is completely traditional, and yet it is close to Liberland. And this is where those events begin. And then they usually escalate into Liberland, so to say, with the few who want to visit it, who get the chance to do so. So it's a resort, and it's owned by us, and we can we can host the conferences there, and we do. There are lots of restaurants, hotels around it. It's really a great experience, and everybody's welcome.
How is Liberland structured, and how is it not just going to evolve into another traditional state?
Well, it's currently it is led by a provisional government, which is a committee of people led by the president. It's a presidential republic, ruled by common sense and natural law. So say the articles of the provisional government, the interim constitution. We are drafting the real constitution, and we're going to put it to referendum as soon as that is possible. That will be possible when 65% plus of all citizens are onboarded on our new blockchain, which is live, and the citizens are coming in. And when there are enough citizens onboarded so that the referenda will be representative for sure, then we can start doing real democracy. And then we will become a parliamentary republic led by a prime minister elected by the Congress, which is the Parliament of Liberland.
Well, will it essentially be direct democracy? Will all participants in Liberland be part of this Congress?
Well, not of the Congress, but that will not be necessary. It will indeed be the most direct democracy in the world, the most participatory one as well.
So the citizens will participate in what way? They'll be voting on what? Every
law.
Every law.
Every law has to go through a referendum, otherwise it's not a law. The Congress proposes the laws.
Okay.
And it can gain delegations of votes. So like basically if you don't have the time to vote yourself, you can give your vote to your favorite congressperson, and then they will vote for you.
Proxy voting.
Yeah, proxy voting. But nobody forces you to do that, and you can always give back your trust if you don't trust that congressperson anymore. Yeah. So compare that to the current democracies, where it's one time per 5 years, and that's that.
I ran for Congress in 2020 in New York for U.S. Congress, and part of my my plan was to effectively slip in a pseudo direct democracy by way of allowing all my constituents to vote directly on every issue that would be in Congress, and then I would pledge to use those votes to determine how I vote in Congress.
That's a very enlightened idea.
Yeah.
Did you get through?
I got much closer than anyone would have imagined, because I was actually backed by the Republican Party, so I was the lead candidate, but it was in a primarily Democratic district. We got 44% of the vote, but it was the closest anybody got in like 30 years, knocking out a Democrat, and now the person who ran is a Republican, and he just won. So the seat just flipped. If I would have kept running, would have had a very real chance. But yeah, this is amazing. You guys are actually walking the walk here. Do you see issues, like I said, so with I called it Gov Together was the original concept we were working on, but I still ultimately believed in representative democracy, democratic republics. I do think you need a representative there to protect the minority opinion. How do you see that working in Liberland? So I guess because you still have legislators proposing the laws, that's how that gets worked out? Because there's this fear that would there be mob rule, right? Does it become potential direct democracy where it's just majority always rules? Have you guys thought about that?
You don't get that in Liberland at all, actually, because the next element of Liberland, which is very unique, is that you vote by tokens, like in a DAO. So not all citizens have the same voice as far as adopting law is concerned. There is a head-counted vote for repealing laws, so even the poorest citizens can have equal say.
I guess that's what I'm saying. What are the protections for minority opinions that should be you may want to protect as a society?
Okay. I would like to start with the issue that's currently in democracies we live in. The majority opinion is also not protected because there are many laws which exist even against the will of the majority. So first off, this is a big bug in democracy, obviously. So we are getting rid of that bug, and this is how. And I just explained how. So we have the head-counted vote against, and the moment that 50% plus one of all possible voters say no to a law, it's no longer a law, and say no to an official, he's no longer an official or she. So that's the protection of majority. The protection of minority is realized by the fact that we have a tokenized democracy. So it's not one person, one vote. A minority leader can sacrifice funds or work and get the token and then vests it into politics and then goes to vote. So the minority, even if there is not that many of them, they can be very active and they can be very helpful for the country. They can get a lot of tokens, and they would actually maybe even have the majority say overall in the country, which is fine. Even that is fine for us, because then they would have sacrificed much for the country. They would have committed their funds, because it's not just pay for play. That's the current system. That's not Liberland. Current systems are largely pay for play, meaning that you can, if you have a lot of money, you can go to the party secretariat and sponsor and get policy going. That's not what we are planning. We have sacrifice for play, meaning that you pay voluntary taxes or do work, and then you get a token which you cannot move freely.
You can't really buy the tokens.
Exactly. Well, you can buy, but it won't help you.
There's going to be a natural market, right, that will exist for people.
It won't help you, because those tokens have to be first vested into the politics, and that means that you can't remove them and you can't sell them. You can only start investing, which is kind of liberal and social system, but that's 10% per year maximum monthly investing. And while you're investing, you lose political rights in the sense of voting. So you cannot vote with the tokens. You can still be an official, you can be a minister, that's fine, but you cannot vote actively with your tokens. Others can delegate into you, then you vote with those tokens, but you cannot vote with your tokens. And so this is a safeguard that the money is not just on an account from which you can withdraw it, and then that would be plutocracy, obviously, but it is sacrificed. You prove your commitment to the country, and you therefore get the voting power. And that's what the minority can do. And the minority would therefore protect its interests and make sure that it will not be trampled by the majority. We are a constitutional republic, just like the US. It's just a constitutional republic for the 21st century.
And how have you been, and how do you foresee you guys interacting with other states?
We are having 85 diplomatic offices, representative offices we call it, because they are not ambassadors, they are representative offices. Think of Taiwan, which is a unrecognized state and also has representative offices. We are the same or similar. And we are moving with several of those states towards the recognition of our passport and towards deals which signify a de facto recognition. However, we realize that the current system is such as it is, and that which we most need is to be left alone and to be able to do what we're best at, and that is to create the freest country in the world and to give freedom to those who want it and to bring prosperity into the region. So, but if we get recognized, and we did get recognized by Somaliland fully and formally, we do have an agreement with Haiti, and we are moving towards agreements with other countries. You can right now move through Mercosur. If you get in on your own passport from, let's say, America, then you could move around that area or hire a hotel or something like that using a Liberland passport. So that's already working.
The Liberland passport takes you where? Where does it give you access?
Within Mercosur. And there is one South American country we're working with or Middle American rather, to get us full recognition of the passport, and then Somaliland.
Oh, wow. Which is the Central American one?
I'm not sure if I can say that.
Okay.
Because those are...
We could whittle it down too.
the negotiations are underway, and I don't want to disturb that.
Okay.
The deal is not yet finalized, so that's that. And we have a state in America which has on its floor recognition of Liberland, a resolution for the recognition of Liberland.
I could probably guess that one. New Hampshire. A state in America that's not New Hampshire? Well, it sure as hell ain't New York, I'll tell you that much.
I think it's Googleable.
Okay. Well, New Hampshire would have been my first guess, but wow, surprised that's not it.
Bit of a question if I could ask.
Somebody.
I think Texudo has a question, but also someone's asking, what's your contact info so people can reach out to you?
So we have a website, www.liberland.org. You can contact me at justice@libgov.ll.land. So that's a government website, or justice@liberland.org. So that's my contact. But we
I'll
are
put it in the notes.
yeah,
over here.
liberland.org. Yes, it will be in show notes.
Are there any corporations that have been created just like in Liberland that are not, or that are functioning beyond Liberland?
Yes, we have rather thriving business sector for how young a state we are.
What are any corporations we might know? Like anything that's
A cybersecurity company, which is
Okay.
an award-winning entity. But yeah.
Okay. Any like crypto? Like I'm thinking like exchanges and things like that. Do you foresee that happening? Anything like that, where it becomes a crypto-friendly place?
Well,
Place to create your crypto business.
we do have a blockchain now,
Mm-hmm.
Liberland blockchain, and so on that blockchain we expect DAOs to spring up. We expect exchanges to start utilizing the very favorable crypto-friendly environment of Liberland.
Mm.
We are starting now, and the Floating Man conference on the 5th and 6th will be our first major blockchain conference, let's say.
And so, what is legal tender in Liberland?
Anything that buys you the goods is the proper answer. The sort of colloquial answer would be Bitcoin and the Liberland cryptocurrency, and any other cryptocurrency, including Monero.
They're all treated equally, right?
They're all treated
Let the
equally.
best monies win. Let people use whatever they want to use.
Yes. We are not even like fixated on crypto, although it's probably going to be crypto. But if you come with gold
yeah.
and you get something from gold, or even US dollars, be my guest. We are not going to talk into what people use as their means of exchange. That's for the market to determine, not for the government.
Mhm.
I owe you an answer to your first question, because I didn't answer it fully. You asked what will we do in order to prevent the government from bloating or something like that, from becoming oppressive.
Yeah.
So we do have a very simple remedy for that, which is foolproof, I would say. How can I say something like that? That's a bold statement. Well, I can say that because no beast will grow if it doesn't get fed, and the beast of our government, or the potential beast, will not get fed by stolen money, because there is no
Taxes.
there is only voluntary tax in Liberland, but no mandatory tax. There is no taxman with a gun. There is only the willingness of the people to outsource certain jobs and services to the government, if they so wish. That's the taxation system of Liberland. Think Patreon, but for countries. You can even say what you want your money to be used for, and it will be heeded.
Beautiful.
I have a question.
Yes, and we should intro you. You want to quickly intro yourself?
Yeah, I'm Victor from IVPN, and I really enjoyed this conference so far.
Awesome.
So yeah, just going back to the corporations part. So our service, VPN service, it's having a jurisdiction is very important for different reasons, and we'll be very good candidates to move there. But my concern would be, and I guess from many corporations, so we have partners, data centers. We need like the normie banking, and we have to be plugged in, and we have to be in a jurisdiction which is respectable, let's say, so, all the air quotes. So can you tell me like whether it's possible to moving towards a state where, you know, corporations or companies who have concerns about that could be a little bit more relaxed or more
Thank you for the question. Of course, we are building such a respectable jurisdiction. There are many hurdles. Rome wasn't built in a day. The business environment of Liberland is currently in an experimental phase, albeit it already works in that experimental phase, but there are many caveats. We do not offer the same business environment as an established country does. So anybody who would try to do business on, say, the Liberland marketplace has to acknowledge that. And there are ways how to resolve that. We are 100% legal and compliant with international regulations. So, for example, you will have to have a business address in a different country.
Yep.
And if you do that, then you have to follow their business establishment laws and their tax law, obviously.
And
There is
how
no
about like data protection? I'm sorry, data protection and legislation. So I essentially have to keep that business entity that I have now, which would be responsible for keeping the laws that it's in all sense, right?
Yes, you would have to in order to work in your country or from your country,
Sure.
you would have to, of course, follow their rules.
Yeah.
And in order to work with European citizens, let's say, which is probably the meat of your question, anyways, you would have to follow the GDPR. But you would have to do that. You will have to do that even when there is a possibility to have a fully registered and respectable address in Liberland, and therefore you would not need to double incorporate. You would have to follow the GDPR with respect to the
It was not
European
about the EU,
citizens,
but
anyways. Yes.
Yeah, but that's a good point. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, maybe I missed a little bit of that. So what would be then the advantage of incorporating Liberland if effectively you still have to obviously follow the laws of the states that you function in?
It is mainly a pilot program, I've been very transparent about the fact that the level of services is not yet the same as in a European country, established one. We're doing our best to make it different, but you are incorporating effectively an online business like a DAO or something, but it's not anonymous. So you have to have a legal incorporation. Actually, we would cancel an incorporation where we would see that that's not the case, because we want our jurisdiction to be respectable, and that means law-abiding. That means respecting the laws of all the other countries around us and all over the world.
Makes sense.
And I think Victor kind of got at this, for data protection purposes. Like if if I want to, if IVPN wanted to keep their servers housed in Liberland, could that potentially give them more protection? Kind of like putting them in Iceland or something. Is there potential added things that Liberland can do to keep other states out of the servers?
Well, Liberland is not in the EU. So as long as you're working with Liberlanders, the somewhat more relaxed rules compared to the GDPR would apply. We do have a sort of GDPR, but that's only for the government. So the real EU GDPR, one might say real, ours is real as well, right? Applies not to governments. Applies only to companies. Yeah. We reversed it. So we guarantee data protection. If your data gets to the government is constitutional protection, actually cannot just give them out, cannot just handle them for nothing. So we have that data protection. But if you're not the government, then our rules would be more market-based. And you would be benefiting from that towards Liberlanders or towards any other country which would like have a double taxation treaty, a free trade treaty, and something like that. Okay.
Victor, man, how's it? First, let me thank you for the sponsorships over the years for Monero Talk and Monerotopia. Greatly appreciate it, man. Glad we get to hang out a little bit.
Yeah, it was really nice to see you coming over here last year. Meet you again.
Yes. Yeah. And so, what's your take on MoneroKon? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's my first time at Paralelni Polis, and I have friends who've been involved in this, and I was invited, but this is my first time, and I love it. I want to be back, and I might be back later this year. So yeah, but if you are watching this and you haven't been to a Monero conference, you should book your next one, because this is not like a direct promo for any of the future things. That wasn't like, okay, so give me a beer, I'm gonna start with a promo for Monerotopia, but yeah, but it's just everyone is really chill, and everyone's very friendly. Even if you come alone and stuff like that, feels like I'm the promo guy for the conference.
I know, keep going.
But like I mean it. Everyone's relaxed and really nice, and you can have a chat about from politics to philosophy to
jump
Monero,
on them.
So.
Oh, sorry. We're trying to get here to jump on over here. There's celebrities left and right, like crypto anarchist celebrities.
Yeah, but they all very, very friendly and accessible. No, like big egos and personas, and that's why it's really nice. So yeah.
Any IVPN announcements or things you want to talk about that you guys are working on that Monero community might be interested in? Obviously, you sell your services anonymously for Monero, which is awesome. We use it. Any other info you want to put out there?
Not specifically. Most of the things that we are doing. So we have some longer term plans which might come into fruition later. I don't want to share it now. But yeah. So for that reason, no. We've been doing this for more than 10 years, and our usual strategy is like chugging along and building it brick by brick, step by step. And it's right now it's a very very fully fledged, very nice service, we think, and based on the customer responses. So yeah, we just want to keep doing it.
Where do you guys have your servers housed technically, and how do you guys best protect the user in those terms?
Yeah, so it's with the partner data centers all over the world, and that's why it's an interesting question, because if you have your own data center, then you have much better full protection against any kind of like physical tampering and attacks. But that's not very feasible. I know one VPN provider, which I wouldn't recommend for other reasons, that they have their own data centers. So usually what happens is you partner with data centers, and you either ship your servers there, or they provision like ideally a bare metal server to put it there, and you wipe it, install it from scratch. And so there are some protections, but it's an important question because it also shines a little bit of a light on like the limitations of VPNs, which most VPN providers don't talk about.
Yeah.
So the VPNs don't save you from targeted attacks. So
right.
If you do something that could be activist, something which is considered illegal in the state you're living in the US, for example, and you want real anonymity, then probably a Tor is a better choice for you generally.
Right, because a government would always be able to get a warrant, essentially get access to the servers.
But it depends on the service. With warrants, they won't be able to get information from us for different reasons, which are details on our website. So they come to our jurisdiction, they ask for information. The police in our jurisdiction come to us, and we say we don't have any data to give. So that's the process, which is good. But in terms of the data centers, that's where if there's a targeted attack against you, there are different ways where governments can go in, cooperate with the data center, and do something called traffic analysis, where they check in the data packets coming into the servers and going out. So it's a resource-intensive, complex thing. But a general commercial VPN service is not designed to protect you against this kind of like very targeted attacks. So if you do something that could be liable for you to get attacked.
You guys use ephemeral RAM, like RAM only servers, right?
No, not yet. No.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
Yeah, that's on the list.
That's Tuxedo, by the way.
Right. Hello, nice to meet you.
Yes.
Tux, any other questions for either of these gentlemen?
I had one for remind me of your name, the Liberland guy.
Michael.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. So you guys are considered would you be considered a micronation?
No, we are a sovereign state.
You are a sovereign state.
Would be seen as nations without a real territory. We do have a real territory between Croatia and Serbia.
So
we're
you are
sovereign
like
state.
reasonably recognized.
We're the world's newest sovereign state. So states are made sovereign not by recognition, but by having state-like elements, and we do have those. Territory, government, control over the territory, which we are establishing currently, and the ability to deal with internationally, which we have demonstrated, for example, in Haiti and Malawi and other places.
And
so
what you say the population estimate was?
I think Tux is packing his bags as we speak to him to move to Liberland.
Well, you can join us. It's the weather's beautiful. There is a border post with boats and houseboat and a like boat established. I don't know exactly what the populace there is. It's not very high at the moment, so feel free to join us and make it a bit higher.
I imagine it's given the ethics, it's probably not super complicated and not overly complicated to try and join and to move there if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, you will have to face certain challenges, and we'll be happy to introduce those to you and ways how to weather them with grace, dignity, and 100% legally, of course.
Yeah, I see Vic was asking, how did you guys get the land? We kind of went over that. It was just there was a bunch of different parties kind of gunning for the land, right?
Well, there was a bunch of different parties, meaning Croatia and Serbia, and they were not gunning for the land. They were trying to do their best to
became a wasteland. They were both saying, you can't use it, we can't use it.
They were both very busy trying to disclaim their ownership of the land, and they still are disclaiming that ownership. So that means they don't want it. And so somebody wanted it, and that somebody is Liberland, as represented by Vít Jedlička, our first president, our current president as well. That's how we got the land. And that's how you get the land in international law. I mean, this principle still stands. It's in the books of doctrine, and it's recognized.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Anything else? Any other info you want to throw out there? All right. Yeah, we'll keep moving. We'll grab some more guests, get them on here. We're going to be here probably for another hour or so.
Yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.
All right. I guess.
All right, we'll keep.
Maybe we'll just keep going and put on.
People in.
Yeah, and we have the dev segment, so let's.
Okay.
We're dropping your pills now. All righty. I guess. Want to move on to the dev segment?
Yeah, let's
take a break.
Up.
How are your vocal cords?
Okay.
Like nonstop talking.
I'm feeling a little
Careful
something in my
with
throat,
the cords.
I'm talking.
Give me 1 second.
Wait, our little waitress is back.
What's up? Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Give us 2
Yeah,
seconds.
let's run the dev report,
Yeah,
and
let's
we'll
do that.
stretch our legs here for a second while that's running.
Yeah,
and
let's
we'll
do that.
See if we
Hold
round
on
up
1
the guests.
second. You're covering
Awesome
the-
guest so far. Really cool.
Oh yeah, right.
No, this
Lots
has been
of
amazing.
people.
This has
Yeah.
been amazing.
All right, let's do the dev segment.
Let's
Give
do
me
it.
1 second.
And now for the Monero development segment.
Play it right now.
Hi, it's DGoon here. And unfortunately, I won't be making it to the live show due to time differences. So we're going to do the dev section this way, pre-recorded. And then this week, we have some really cool things happening, such as Monero funding Tor. And Tor is pretty important. Monero is pretty important also. They're both great privacy projects. And it's great to see them helping each other out. In the past, we've covered how Monero coders have helped Tor actually fight DDoS attacks. So this month, we're going to see how Monero has also contributed back to Tor. And what is Tor? Why is Tor important? Tor is the most private way to use the internet, as far as I know. It's super private, and it's really important to support dissidents, right? Let's say you live in a country like the United States that wants to suppress certain information about what the government's up to, what the military is up to, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to be anonymous, but you want to put out data, government leaks, or like Julian Assange, you would use Tor essentially, which helps protect your privacy. Pretty important, like I said, most private way to use the internet. Darknet markets use it, whistleblowers use it. It's subjectively a great thing. It needs to be supported. So that's the reason why government's trying to stop Tor, work against Tor, because it really helps bring a lot of things from the dark into the light, which is a really great whistleblower tool in general. And Tor is really good for that. It is basically how Tor works. Tor basically bounces your connection around different computers, and the bounce sort of encapsulates it and hides it from outside viewers. And I believe the most basic understanding is that it does 3 hops between computers, different computers, right? Someone might have a computer in, China, someone might have a computer in Australia, and it's kind of slow, but that's what happens when you bounce around randomly across the globe, right? Internet slows down, but it becomes encrypted and private internet if it works well. There's some caveats to that, but generally speaking, that's how Tor works. You make it in connection to different computers bouncing around and sort of hiding your internet traffic. But once again, it's slow because the computers might be in different countries, in someone's basement, in a hardware center. It all depends, basically. And who runs Tor nodes, you might ask? Like I said earlier, Tor nodes can be all around the world. So these people who run these are just chads. These are just volunteers who are just like, I want to support whistleblowing. I want to support all these great things that privacy and Tor brings. So they literally just put a computer or server somewhere. It might be on premise, might be in a cloud, and they just pay it out of their pocket, generally speaking. there generally isn't a great way to make money from this. It's not something you would do to make money, right? You would do it to simply support the network and support a good. You're basically a chat. And another way to sort of overcome this idea of like relying on donations is that someone had the idea to make an app that allows you to donate Monero to tour operators. Basically, how it works, the company, or not company, not-for-profit behind Tor releases stats about Tor, and then it's like, this is how much traffic was sent through, these are the computers that were used, et cetera, et cetera. If you run a Tor node, you can add your Monero address there and help receive donations. But what this project does is basically allows you the easy way to donate to Tor operators in private anonymous cash Monero. And this is really important because you shouldn't rely just on people being good spirited, to run something as vital as Tor. So it's really important to fund these things. It's really cool to see Monero stepping up and funding these type of projects. And you want to ask how much we've gone so far. So far, this month, I believe, there are 2 whole Moneros have been donated to various relay operators. It isn't a ton of money, right? You're not going to run a Tor node because it makes you money. You're not doing it because it's going to give you retirement. You're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, and you recognize that privacy is good. Everyone should have privacy. So the fact that Monero, this project just started this month, I believe, it's really cool to see people have donated over $2 Monero to this project, which is around, if you use 150, around $300 to various projects, and have funded 320 relays that would not have funded before. So hopefully this is a great start. Hopefully the future just grows and grows and grows, and we get more similar relationship between Monero and Tor. And once again, if you want to look up more about this, you can go to reiya.com. I'm not going to try to butcher the name. And you'll see the donation address right here on the screen. Also, I recommend you go to the website, check it out, read around. It's a pretty straightforward website. I think it's like 1 page. That's part I looked at. It's really cool project. So please check it out. Donate if you can. Tor is important. Monero is important. They go great together. I'm glad to see this project helping support both. And usually I end with a Monero talk reference. This is no exception. I'm going to try a different format since it's pre-recorded. It's going to be a Tor Monero quiz. Which Monero dev has written code to protect Tor from DDoS attacks? If you are Monero Talk, Monerotopia follower, you will know the answer to this. Is it Tevrador, Arctic Mine, or Binary Fate? I'm going to give you a second to make your choice about which one of these devs has written code to actually protect Tor from DDoS attacks. Well, let's get on to the answer. Hopefully you have your answer in your head. It was Tevrador. And once again, if it happened in aerospace, Doug has an episode about it. So I recommend you go watch this episode. It's really cool talking about how Tor, not simply Tor, sorry, but how RandomX works together. Now, I'd love to see an episode from Tevrador and Doug about specifically Tor and the work he's done with that. Great dev. I mean, super talented set of devs Monero have. It's great to see them working on other things. Like I said, check out this video. And for everyone in the world, hope you're doing good. People at MoneroKon, hope it goes well. And thank you so much. That's it. Hope you have a great day.
All righty. We're back with more guests.
We're back. Just an endless flow of guests here, guys.
Yes.
And some of them I've already done little Monero talk with, so I probably won't bring those because I don't want to bother people too much. These guys I actually wanted to do little Monero talks with, but we're grabbing them now. You want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Martin. I'm from the Austrian Economic Center in Vienna, and I'm the senior research fellow there, chief economist, so to speak.
Fantastic. And Pavol, the Monero community should be familiar with you at this point.
Yeah, hello. My name is Pavol Luptak, and I'm one of the co-founders of this beautiful place, Paralelni Polis. We started like a Bitcoin coffee, the first crypto-only coffee almost 11 years ago.
Amazing.
And we love Monero, and what else? And I'm like perpetual traveler, global opportunist, crypto-anarchist, and
yes, you gave a fantastic talk yesterday. I think it was the opening talk, right? Yeah.
Unfortunately without slides, but
yeah, that was annoying. Unfortunately without slides. But it was basically Pavel's in the business of actually teaching people how to actually opt out, right?
Exactly. How to use basically all legal ways to be more free economically and like economical and personal freedom. How to have like a more free life.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people checking out the video. You were giving some recommendations on places people might want to consider getting a second residency, right?
Yeah, it's not only about residency, but also about residency. It's basically how to decentralize different aspects of like a personal and business life to different countries in order to have the cheapest and the best life from this point of view. And especially now when it's so easy and so cheap travel, for example, and people are flexible and the world is global. Now it's you can use these both things like a flexibility and being global to definitely to achieve more both economical and personal freedom. So
yeah, one of the things you mentioned was this idea of living off of crypto by taking loans from your crypto, right? Because that allows you to avoid a lot of the tax implications.
Exactly, especially when you live majority of your time more than 6 months at one place, and you want to have like a tax-free, happy life. You cannot have profit. The only thing how not to have profit is to live from loans. How all rich people like Elon Musk, for example, Mark Zuckerberg, all these Warren Buffett, all these people they live from the loans because living from loans means no profit, no taxes. And what is pretty cool is that even now we have a lot of like a Bitcoin collateral loans. So basically, you can deposit your Bitcoin as a collateral, and you can ask for a loan. I don't know, like a few percent, 2, 3, 4, 5%, depends on the company or depends on the DAO, and then you can enjoy like your money. And usually these interest fee is lower than yearly inflation rate. So if you live at one place and you want to have like a tax-free life, I strongly recommend you to live from the loan. Crypto loan is the best. You can use like a secure smart contract, and there are many companies or DAO project like MakerDAO is one of the most famous.
And this is a topic now you guys could both provide answers on. We've seen a crackdown on quote unquote privacy coins in Europe, right? We saw Binance recently delist everything that they considered to be a privacy coin. Monero was among them. And then they relisted, I believe, including relisting Zcash, but they didn't relist Monero. Pavol, what's your take on all this? I assume it's a crypto anarchist take of who cares what the regulators are saying. We should just be using crypto. But I'm curious what you're maybe mostly in Europe, or obviously you're here for quite a bit of time out of the year. What do you think about the regulatory crypto scene here and how it should or shouldn't affect its users?
I think there are many different perspectives on this topic, and I'm the optimist guy, which basically means that like when the Monero will be prohibited, or when Monero is prohibited, more people start to use it for sure. Yeah,
Streisand effect.
Yeah. Because it basically means like privacy. There is like a big threat on privacy, and basically all people who really appreciate privacy, they should see that Europe Union, for example, is anti-privacy, and using Monero is just the only way. Like for example, what I can tell you, like Czech Republic and Slovakia, we have a tradition of using of doing something what is called Vexel. I'm not sure you know. Vexel, you know? It's a new English word.
They're supposed to participate in Monerotopia. Yep, but we know all about it.
Like Vexel basically means like a black market crypto trading.
Right.
So,
but among your own network, right?
And this has really long tradition in Slovakia or Czechoslovakia, So for these people, it won't be nothing new, you know. Like they will like a crypto vexel people staying outside, dealing cash for Monero. Yeah, that's we have already had these, you know, like with USD dollars and Czech crowns, because USD in Czechoslovakia was prohibited, also like German marks, for example. So yeah, like especially in Czechoslovakia, people will just take it like a new situation and just like we are expecting like new, even like you have application Vexel, for example, which is like a peer-to-peer non-regulated crypto trading, and it's super popular here, this application, and you can trade everything including like a Monero, for example. So I think that some prohibition of Monero in European Union in Czechoslovakia means nothing. I think it will be even more popular. So I'm pretty optimistic from this point of view.
I think we share that optimism.
I mean, I completely agree. One thing that might also be interesting is that now we have the chance to actually communicate to people that they have to rely on some decentralized mechanisms to buy Monero, to really, we should actually aim for that. So I'm quite thankful that Monero is not on decentralized, on centralized exchanges.
It's forcing
anymore.
people to use it the correct way.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's good news, actually.
Like a prohibition of anonymous cryptocurrencies is also something that sends signal to all Europeans. Hey, we are basically going to the digital totalitarian society, to dystopia.
The government doesn't want you to have privacy.
Exactly. It's basically like a broadcasting to all people here. You in the future you won't have privacy. So I think this will have like an opposite effect, because still many people that really want like a privacy. So I even think that we are still like a golden ages of Monero will be maybe in 5 years. That's why I'm super optimistic.
Are you kind of surprised though to see the European governments moving in this direction so swiftly compared to even, I'd say, they're ahead of the United States in terms of cracking down on privacy tech, which seems a little hypocritical, given that, you know, Europe was also kind of ahead of the curve in terms of protecting people's data and privacy, right? Like in implementing regulations that mandated that corporations protected people's privacy and data. I'd say they were ahead of the United States on that, but now they seem to be ahead in terms of cracking down on people's use of privacy tools.
Well, personally, I'm not surprised at all, because the European Union focus on all measures that actually increase their power when it comes to protecting privacy. So all the regulation that the European Union has implemented, or the European governments have implemented, are just a power grab, so to speak, for governments to actually have a bigger role in the protection of privacy. And Monero takes the power away from them and other privacy tools we are discussing here. So I guess it's not really surprising that the European Union was acting so swiftly. I actually expected something like that to happen really fast. Yeah.
We shouldn't forget that European Union is planning to introduce and enforce CBDC in a period of, for example, 5 years. And when they want to persuade people to use CBDC in 5 years, there shouldn't be like a competitors. You know, they shouldn't be like a competitive cryptocurrencies. People will be able to use legally. So basically, I think this is also the part, not only of the European Union but also of the US, how to like destroy potential competition of CBDC. Yeah, because when people can still use like easily with no regulation, so a lot of regulation means like nobody will use it, you know. So a lot of regulation is a lot of regulation basically means technically ban, you know. So they just want to regulate cryptocurrencies so much that it won't make sense to use them. And this is the plan, because because we will have like a CBDC, and everybody should use CBDC. That's the official European plan, and also that's the official plan of the United States. Like even I think in June, this month or the next month, there will launch a Fed Now. Not sure the Fed Now. And Fed Now should be like one of the first implementation of CBDC in the US.
Yeah, basically a CBDC without calling it a CBDC.
Yeah.
So how far do you see things going in Europe in terms of regulations against privacy coins?
Do you mean on privacy regulation, or what exactly do you mean?
Like how far will the European Union go in terms of making it perhaps difficult for people to use something like Monero? Do you get to the point where they potentially ban it?
Well, they might, but as Pavol actually already mentioned, there might be a Streisand effect, and they might be aware of that. So let's see whether they will really ban it. I think it could be, but let's see there. I'm really not sure.
I think the European Union is killing this by over-regulations. I'm going to tell you like an example. For example, now in European Union, when you want to change fiat to crypto, you have to do KYC from zero. So even if you want to change the 10 euros, for example, to crypto, officially you should get KYC from 10 euros, for example, 20 euros. And for the ATM, like Bitcoin ATM companies or crypto ATM companies, this doesn't make economic sense at all. Because this KYC process is so bureaucratic, so complex, so comprehensive. So it doesn't make economic sense to have these Bitcoin ATM machines here. So, for example, all my friends who own this Bitcoin ATM machine, they moved their Bitcoin ATM machine to Uruguay and Panama. So, for example, in Slovakia, Czech Republic, all these Bitcoin ATM companies are just moving away. And that's exactly how European Union is killing crypto. It's not officially like prohibited because we are like a democratic society. We cannot ban things, but it's so overregulated that nobody will use it.
Effectively, yeah.
Make it economically unfeasible. That's it.
Economically not feasible. Exactly. Economically not feasible.
And so, your talk, it was on the economics of privacy. Give us what is the thesis there? What was the point?
Well, the thesis is that by governments even regulating or just making regulation on privacy, they are actually creating less responsible usage of data. So they are making people less responsible when it comes to broadcasting their data, broadcasting their information. So this actually creates a society where people are like, I don't care about my privacy because government protects me anyway. This is one of the major points. And the other point was that we will, by just having the data out there in the public, because it's forced by the government, we will create a society that is self-censoring. And this has economic effects when it comes to innovation, because innovation requires that you have some willingness to go against the norm, to just disrupt the current state. And if that is punished by government, potentially at least, then you won't have the willingness at the magnitude that you should have, relative to before. So I guess that the privacy issue will really be a major issue in the next few years, just because governments will probably create less responsible people and then make them censor themselves. So it's quite a dire outlook, to be honest.
Generalize it. Basically, more protection laws means less personal individual responsibility. And so for example, many people in Europe didn't expect, hey, we have like a GDPR and we have all these like a privacy rules, and it means nothing. It's there is no like a correlation with the real security. For example, I have a company, we do penetration testing and security audits and everything. And just the fact that some company is following all these privacy regulation, it means nothing. We can still hack it to this company easily, it's not. It doesn't reflect. It's like paper security. It doesn't reflect like a real security.
And so, where economics and privacy, how do you see Monero interacting and affecting these things?
Well, that's actually quite easy. It creates an alternative structure that allows us to preserve some sort of privacy, or at least a modicum of privacy in a society where the government really tracks down on privacy. And I think this is important, especially when it comes to, just think at what happened with the trucker protests in Canada, where they had their bank accounts freezed and all their assets freezed. So Monero could be used as a tool to counteract that. And this is getting more and more important, I guess.
And so what do you think needs to happen to, I guess, grow adoption is really the need. Any thoughts there? It's just people's eyes need to be open when these incidents happen as to the fact that these tools exist and can prevent governments from imposing their tyranny on people.
Well, I think what Monero and Bitcoin already did a great job on is to make the tool easy to use. Maybe we could still improve on, because when I talk with people, they still find it hard to use. I'm not sure why this is, to be honest, because I find the tools easy to use at this point. But maybe there's still some room for improvement. That would be one issue maybe, and also make Monero more known, because many people that I talk with, even the people that are kind of into privacy, just have never heard of Monero, which I find amazing.
Right.
But yeah, some people seem to not have recognized.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we can do. Right? Maybe
you're doing a great job there.
Yeah,
so.
we try. I think maybe the privacy community is just too private, right? Like it kind of makes it harder for things to socially travel when everybody's.
Maybe yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you so much, guys. I'll let you continue to enjoy the conference.
Thank you.
Pavel, thank you so much, man, and thank you for allowing MoneroKon to host the conference here.
Yeah, to be sincere, I'm super happy that this year MoneroKon takes place in Paralelni Polis in La Fabrica. To be, this was my dream, so I can tell that my dream was achieved. I'm really happy that MoneroKon takes place here like that. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say a lot of the ideology that's core to the ethos of Monero was maybe not birthed here, but kind of formulated and spread from here, from Paralelni Polis, from maybe conventions you've had in the past, and the thinkers you've had that have put information out there. A lot of those ideas came from here.
Yeah, maybe you should know that, like in Paralelni Polis, our goal was, is, and will be always freedom. And we use crypto as a liberation, or we consider crypto to be a liberation tool. And that's exactly the reason why we love Monero, because thanks to Monero, we can achieve more freedom, more privacy, everything. So there's a big difference between like Paralelni Polis and many other places. We know like at some like tech places doing some, I don't know, Ethereum things. We care about freedom. This is the most important thing in this place.
The tech is just a tool.
And tech is, we love tech, but it's just a tool to achieve freedom and privacy. So, and it always be. So basically that's why crypto conferences organized in Paralelni Polis are always focused on freedom.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. All right, Pavol. I'm sure we'll be talking more and hanging out in the back. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. All right, we'll move on. Do we still have any other?
Oh, we have the news segment.
Yeah. You want to play that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Thank you, guys.
We'll take a break.
We'll go take a break. Yeah. All righty. Let's put on the news with Tony. It's also pre-recorded. So here's our little intro. And now for our weekly news segment. It's always a little too loud. Sorry about that, guys. Alrighty, let's bring on Tony's news. Here we go. Is it played?
The news section today is June 24th, which is the first day of MoneroKon. So at the end of the video, you're gonna see a couple pictures. Douglas and Anita are there right now. This year, it's gonna be in Prague, and that's very, very cool and exciting. So besides that, we have a lot of big news when it comes to Monero. The first thing that I want to discuss is interesting. So a Russian man donated to the Ukrainian army fund in ordinary crypto, right? So maybe Bitcoin or something like that. And he's he has been caught, and he's now arrested by the FSB RU, which is a Russian secret torture service, according to this person's translation. And he faces 25 years in jail for treason. So what I want to emphasize with this is basically that if he had used Monero, then nobody would have known that transaction existed. Nobody would have known that he even made that transaction, and then he would not have been in jail right now. So it just shows that you need privacy in a currency, and it shows where it fails when you have a transparent blockchain. So yeah, another thing in which Monero is superior is the fees. So the fees are very, very low for the people that don't know. And I got this from Reddit. Someone on Reddit posted this, and the person made it. So it shows Monero's average fees versus Bitcoin's average fee. So in Monero, it's 0.001 average fee, which is nothing. Right? It's very, very low. It's nothing. But in Bitcoin, it's $5. That's the average fee, which is really high for just a fee for transacting. And then we have a chart for since last year to today, and it shows kind of where we are. Monero, low fees at all times, 0.0 something, and then Bitcoin is almost always over $1. One time it was even $31 on just and not too long ago. So, but Monero was still at 0.05. So it also shows that Monero is superior in the fees, because the more it's used, actually, the lower the fees due to Monero architecture. And it matters when it comes to spending this currency. And if the person that you want to transact with doesn't accept Monero directly, what you can do is you can go on CakeWallet and you can use CakePay, and you can get a gift card for your Monero, and then you can pay for your service this way. And they just added Burger King to their 200 plus vendor list in CakePay. So yeah, go ahead and use that. Now, next thing that I want to bring up, just back to CakeWallet. Actually, they had an update 4 days ago, 4.6.7. So make sure you update that. And Monero.com is 1.3.8. Updates in iPad, table UI. So there's a new layout for the iPad and tablets, side shift update and fixes, improved MoonPay sell, bug fixes, and many other things. So make sure that you update to the newest version of CakeWallet. Next, we have something from our team members, DGoon, which is, he does an excellent job, and this is a very, very cool service that he just released. So he recently launched Phantom Phone, which is an anonymous phone number verification service. He said, Phantom Phone gives you a phone number for services that require it, such as Signal, Telegram, Tinder, etc. And he offers short and long-term rental numbers. If you want to test the service, a free public number is on the landing page. It is less secure, he says, than having a physical burner phone, but it's cheaper and more convenient. If you want a good deal on anonymous burner phone, my other service, Anon Shop, which you should check out, lets you get better deals on burner phones than physical stores offer. So if you have any questions about this, make sure that you reach out to him. The website is very beautiful, of course. This is very particular when it comes to style, and his Twitter is, his posts are very aesthetically pleasing as well. Beautiful website, and yeah, make sure you check it out. That's really cool. Now, next thing, MoneroOS. This is a bit more technical, but someone has been playing with nice hash OS, And the person said, or she maybe, it seems fairly good except for the fact that it is custodial, proprietary, and may need KYC. So the person thought that he could or she could create something like that for Monero. So MoneroOS came into existence. And for more details, make sure that you go on the links and look on the GitHub and play with it if you want. Molvad has been accepting Monero for a long time. This is not something new, but I saw it pop up on Reddit again. So just as a reminder, if you want a VPN provider, Molvad does accept Monero. And if you like Molvad, then pay Monero and you're going to have a VPN. Now, for our team, we are looking to hire a UX UI designer. So if you're interested, make sure that you email us at monerotopic@protonmail.com. Yeah, we do need help. It's always needed. So make sure that you read the description and join the team. That'll be cool. Next, bit of CBDC. So we have two articles which are kind of opposing. One in Slovakia, which this is very nice to see. And I don't think it's surprising. I think it's Slovenia or Slovakia. No, Slovakia, I think, is very crypto-friendly. So they passed, in its constitution, the right of its citizens to pay for goods and services with cash, right? Because they're fearful of the digital euro. They're quite aware of what could happen. So Slovakia's financial sovereignty said, it is very important that there is a provision in the constitution based on which we can defend ourselves in the future against any orders from the outside saying that there can only be digital euro and no other payments options. Also protects shopkeepers, if they want to refuse cash, of course. If they choose to do that, they can. So it protects them as well, maybe against robberies, exposure to germs. But a lot of things have germs. That's not. I mean, money is disgusting in itself, because everybody touches it and stuff like that. But whatever. I mean, we touch a lot of other things. Just wash your hands after when you get home. But yeah, robberies and things like that. So if the shopkeeper, for some reason, does not want to accept cash and wants to pay the exorbitant fees from Visa and all the other people, which is 3% and up. American Express is like 7%. Right? So they can choose to do that. Yeah, so very good to see from Slovakia protecting themselves from what is coming. And it is coming because in the US, we've seen some articles in the past news sections where they say, oh, we're thinking about the CBDC. We're not sure if it's going to come. We're doing a lot of research, putting a lot of money, but maybe it's not going to come. We have CBDCs in some countries. And I think last news section, we had an article on it. But look at France. So the French central banker said, François Villeroy de Garon, sorry if I didn't say that correctly, but he tried to soft sell the proposed Euro CBDC to commercial bankers, emphasizing collaboration and the CBDC's advantages. And in the article, he says that it's kind of like the euro will be a digital banknote or cash plus, right? So the cash plus is a very interesting way of putting it because it's like cash, but it's plus. It's better, right? It's an improved version of cash. That's their selling point. Of course, people don't know. A lot of people don't know what it's going to come with. A lot of bad stuff. But they said we central banks have absolutely no intention to open private accounts. Yeah, so interesting kind of two opposing views coming from Slovakia versus French. Of course, this is just one central banker. There's probably people in France, of course, 100% from the political realm that are opposing CBDCs and are aware of them. I'm not sure how many of them, but we should see. Yeah, the Slovakia rule has been passed, so it's in the constitution. I'm not sure when it's going to go in the constitution, but yeah, it has been passed. Now, last things that we are going to discuss for today is MoneroKon. It's a very special time of the year. MoneroKon, we had Monerotopia not long ago, like a month ago. Now we have MoneroKon, which is in Czech Republic in Prague. So yeah, make sure that you go on the live stream, check it out, right? You can tune in with them. Then we have a dog is there, Sunita is there, and they brought a lot of gratuitous coffee. So make sure you spend your Monero, buy some coffee. from us. And if you go on, but I had to pull up MoneroKon. Let's type that. Okay. Yeah, people are already in Prague. Of course, this is day one. It's very exciting. There's lots of pictures on Twitter. So if you don't have Twitter, go on Twitter. Or even if you don't have Twitter, just go on Twitter and check out the pictures from the MoneroKon page. You can buy stickers, all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, very cool time. Naruto t-shirt over here. Yeah, it's gonna be a very, very good time for the people that are attending. Hopefully next year I can attend it. I'll be in Europe in like 1 month. Couldn't make it to Prague, unfortunately, but what can we do? Guys, this was this week's news section. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week with more exciting things, and have a good week. Bye-bye.
Alrighty.
We're back with new people. We got endless rounds. We were going to potentially end the stream, but there's just too
so
much
many...
good content to go around. For example, like this table we're watching right over here, right? We're watching the magic happen over here. We have the Furo team and the Monero team, guys from Zano, and they're all kind of.
I need to turn the camera?
They're all talking about full membership proofs and the potential Monero upgrades. So.
No, I won't turn around.
Extremely exciting to witness. And we got new guests over here. You guys want to quickly introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. I'm Cayle, Sharrock. I'm head of engineering at Tari Labs.
And I'm Mike Berry. I'm from one of the core developers at Tari.
Yes. So what's going on with Tari, guys? I haven't heard much about it recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a couple of...
You guys want to put your mics a little closer to your mouth because there's a lot of noise.
I do want to. How did you know?
People are noisy. It's been a couple of years since we chatted, right? So, we've been working hard the last few years. Essentially, the big news is like we're starting an audit on the the base layer chain next week. Once the audits are done, that'll take a couple of months. Nothing's really, we can make a decision then, assuming the audit's clean. The mainnet is the layer one. The layer one is done. We still got some work to do on the layer 2, which is the really interesting stuff, the smart contract layer. But we've made a huge amount of progress there in the last year or so. We've got the Tari virtual machine for running smart contracts. We've got the bridges between the layer 1 and layer 2 more or less sorted out. We had to invent a whole new extension to Mimblewimble to allow that to happen, which we call Tari script. Essentially adding scripting capabilities to Mimblewimble. Leveraging that lets us split the responsibility of the Tari smart asset network between a proof of work chain, which is like highly secure and slow, and then a Byzantine fault tolerant network, which is hyper fast, hyper scalable, and that's where the smart contracts are running. And that split lets us choose the best of both worlds. We let the proof of work do what it's good at, and we let the BFT do what it's good at, and try and get an overall experience that is incredibly easy for developers, incredibly performant, and private.
So for anybody that's actually hearing about Tari for the first time, how would you describe it, what it is, and how it may relate to Monero or may not relate to Monero in any way?
So we want to make Tari the sensible choice for anyone who's looking at building a smart contract, who they're looking at building a smart contract on a chain that they can trust. The motto we'd like to have is it's just easier to do it on Tari. It's just safer to do it on Tari, and you are not worried about the privacy concerns, right? So if you want to, if you believe in privacy like all of us do, that this option is available to you, right? And the things you don't have to think about is scalability. Will my transaction fees just skyrocket at some point? Is it safe? Do I need to pay some developer a crazy amount of money to try and audit this code, or is there going to be some backdoor in it? So we want to build building blocks, or we're going to provide building blocks for developers and not even developers, guys with very little development experience, just to build something and engage with the Web3 or the DeFi or the decentralized digital currencies and digital assets without that fear of, we want to reduce that entry point, you know.
You know, people want to do things like smart contracts, DeFi, whatever. The fact is, the Monero chain itself is never going to implement that kind of thing because Monero's number one goal is privacy.
I just want to make sure people can hear you because you sound a little low.
There we go. That's better. Okay.
Oh.
So, yeah, just to repeat, like, so, you know, people want to be able to do DeFi, like NFTs, decentralized identity, all these kind of applications in Web3. The core Monero chain is not going to support that, right? Because Monero's mission is privacy, and that's their goal, and rightfully so. So what Tari does is it brings the Monero philosophy of, you know, keeping things as private and permissionless and self-sovereign and censorship resistant as possible into a Web3 context. And we know that because, you know, Fluffy Pony is one of the founders of Tari. You know, he brings that history and that weight and that philosophy through. We're all like-minded in that respect. And then furthermore, Tari is merge-mined with Monero. So, you know, what that means, it's Tari inherits a lot of the security budget of Monero. So on day one, you know, we don't have to gradually build up hash rate. We just inherited it from Monero. And on the other side of the coin, as it were, Monero miners get free Tari. So, you know, there may be a concern that the Taylor mission is only 0.6 Monero. You know, is that enough? Here's a little bit of a sweetener. You know, you get some free Tari for supporting the Tari chain as well as Monero. And so
at no cost, really.
At no real cost. And so there's a symbiotic relationship between the two.
Yeah, that is awesome. A lot of questions running through my mind. I mean, you guys have been developing this for a while, right? You've been developing for a while. How has things, like the landscape has changed quite a bit from when you started to now, right? What's been going on outside of Tari? How do you see Tari comparing to some of the other projects that have already launched and I believe are trying to do similar things, right? Trying to be the private Ethereum, essentially.
Yeah.
For lack of a better description.
I mean, this is highly subjective, but I think I just see other projects making the same mistakes over and over again. I mean, we've shifted direction a little bit, but like our core philosophy of splitting Tari into two layers and letting each layer like do what it does best, so that we can have like overall user experience that is just like beautiful. That hasn't changed. What has changed is a little bit about how the relationships between the layer 1 and layer 2, because new technology has arrived and you know, we as a team have grown and learned, and you know, crypto is like an onion, right? It just has infinite layers, and the deeper you get, the more you learn, and the more you realize you don't know, and you know, and we've gone through that journey, and we're have adapted as we've learned, but the ultimate mission is really still to just give users and developers the best experience possible, with privacy.
Now you say layer 1 is launching first, and then layer 2, but layer 2 is really where the magic's going to happen.
Yeah.
What's going to be possible with layer 1? What will people initially be using Tari for?
You'll be getting ready for layer 2. I mean, that's basically it. What the reason we're likely to stagger the launch is because we want to get the liquidity out. You know, everyone who wants to launch a business or some sort of DApp on the Tari network is going to have some Tari in their back pocket to do that. And you know, launching the layer 1 gives them time to, you know, get the Tari they need. It also gives them time to get their smart contracts right in testnet. Yes. Make sure they understand the development process, the APIs, and so on. Iron out any bugs, and then
there's also a small security feature to it, is that you need to put down some money to become a second layer validator node. And if we launch that immediately, then there's not a lot of funds available for people to register. You're going to have a very skewed second layer where a lot of funds are maybe you don't know where the funds are at that point. So it gives it some time for the funds to distribute into the wider network so that we can trust more about who are running validated nodes.
Okay. And what, like, I know we've talked about this in the past, but you remind me and the viewers, what do the tokenomics look like for people that are interested in getting involved in Tari and want to be a part of it from the beginning? How do they best get their hands on Tari? Is that they mine it, or kind of explain that to us?
Yeah, so the final tokenomics are not final.
Oh, it's still not final. All right. So
but I can tell you,
know.
That the curve is essentially like the Monero curve, you know, exponential decay with the tail emission. You only mine on the layer 1, which we call Monero-Tari. So the miners are mining the Monero-Tari, and that is 60% of blocks will be merge mined with Monero, and then 40% is a different proof of work algorithm that's Tari specific.
Do you get more bang for your Tari for your buck there in terms of mining versus the merge mine?
The reason is that there are certain attacks that you can perform on pure merge mine coins, and so this is just to mitigate those kind of, like, it's very easy to 51% attack a pure merge mine coin if less than half of the parent chain is merge mining, as you can imagine. So let's say it was only merge mined and only 25% of pools are merge mining Tari. A big pool could just 51% attack us at almost no cost. Yeah,
you would never even know that it was happening.
And who's issued Tari? Is it just going to be via the miners and then it'll spread that way, or is there some kind of dev fund, dev tax?
Good old proof of work
from day one.
Yeah, I mean, specifics around that will be coming out shortly. You know, we need to wrap everything up for the audit, so you know we're going to wrap everything up and then announce to the community what the specifics are, but it's still a little bit up in the air at the moment.
All right, and is Fluffy still like active in the project? What's going on with that?
He's taken more of an advisory role at this stage. He's very busy with a lot of other stuff and personal stuff.
Yeah,
but
we've all heard. You know, everybody loves spreading the rumors, right?
Okay. Yeah, so he's more of an advisory role at this stage. So and he's overseeing everything we're doing. So.
All right, guys, exciting stuff. Maybe we could do a proper Monero talk when you guys launch, when you actually have the mainnet launch.
Yeah, and maybe next year we've got some exciting stuff to share. I mean, it's things are moving fast.
Yeah.
So
you're saying mainnet launch pretty much kind of any day now.
I mean, like I said, the audit starts next week.
Okay.
And that'll take a couple of months. It's 250,000 lines of code in the Tari code base right now. So it takes a while to get through the core bits, the important bits. Assuming the audit goes well, then we're on the launch pad. We just need to pull the trigger. I don't know when. We'll see.
I guess final question. Yat, right? So Yat's already been out there in the wild. But I guess the idea was Yat would kind of be one of the first apps running on Tari. Any insight there to how Yat relates to Tari, or if it still does? What's going on with that?
I still think that Yat is a great product when you're sending funds around and you need to relay, your address to someone else. One of our targets is to get Yat running. It'll be running on the second layer. It won't run on the base layer. So it will be. I can't confirm whether it will launch with the second layer immediately, but it still will be a reference design that people can do, along with a lot of other reference designs. We hope to have some examples of DeFi stuff that people can do, some ERC20 kind of contracts, some game assets and NFTs. Those are all things we're hoping to implement, but Yat will be like a fully fledged business that people can see as a example reference product. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because right now it's not obviously not decentralized Yat or anything, but the idea is, I guess, to port it over type thing, right?
Exactly, 100%.
And I guess another final question. What's your current take on Monero, guys? So you guys are obviously
fanboys.
Okay.
Fanboys.
And how do you feel about the project in general, the ecosystem, adoption? Like, what do you currently? What's your feel?
I mean, personally, I think Monero is probably the most underrated currency on the planet. Right? It's partly because people don't know that they need privacy until it's too late. You know, it's the horse is bolted, and it's like, shit, I need some privacy. It's like, well, you know, you could have, you had Monero was there all along. It's, you know, huge fanboys. In fact, and this conference is my favorite conference.
Yeah, that was
on
going to be
the
my
circuit.
final question.
You know, last year in Lisbon was fantastic. You know, I live out that way now. Just the people, the level of talks, the intelligence around here. Here in Prague, it's been spectacular. Organization's been brilliant. Couldn't be happy. It is my favorite conference out of all of them.
Well, you haven't been to Monerotopia yet. No.
I haven't. Yeah. I was about to say, like, you know, and there was only that one, the MCC Crypto Friends conference. You know?
Oh yeah, Magical Crypto.
That was pretty good. But this one is my favorite. I never missed this one.
Yeah, there's so many smart people in the room. It's just the level of the talks is just like I mean, I'd put myself in the group of recreational cryptographer, and it's just hitting the sweet spot. There's just so many smart people from the cryptography point of view, from the economics point of view. I think a lot of the people get caught up in the Bitcoin maxi idea, and it's just so refreshing.
They
to
miss
see.
a lot.
You're just missing a lot. And there was a great talk on the fees and the dynamic blocks yesterday. It's a great talk on the membership proofs. There's just so many. Almost every single talk has been just fascinating. So,
Yes. All right, gentlemen.
Thank you
so much. Thank you for jumping in.
I'll chat to you in another 4 years.
I'll probably talk to you in about 2 minutes.
Cheers.
All right.
Yeah, there are dogs barking. There's just chaos behind us, guys.
Free for all. All right, I guess.
I guess.
Tux, you still there?
I think Tux.
I'm still here. Yep, I'm chilling.
He's still here. He's been having a ball listening.
It's been great.
It's been awesome.
What was Demi saying? Don't you think it might be wise to do a Monero talk before they're ready to launch? What if there are devs who want to integrate this into their project? Yeah, maybe. So I think we'll move on back to
2 hours and a half. You think
engaging in the conference without microphones? Tux, that was pretty awesome, right?
That was great. That was actually a really good idea. I didn't think it was going to work as well as you had mentioned, but no, that was awesome.
Here?
Oh yeah.
And it was good the whole time. Audio was
it's
fine.
It's usually worse. I know. I was like trying to make sure because there was so much noise because there were pockets of people that came out. So it's like at one point, like it was just super loud.
Are there any talks left going on today?
No, it ended already.
It ended. Okay.
Yeah.
But then is there an event tonight?
No, yesterday was the.
All right, so today just
it was
like
4:30.
People get to chill. All right.
Tari ended actually, and then he came here, so that was nice.
Oh, okay.
So for those that are watching, tomorrow the conference starts at 10. With Alfredo.
Okay. And we'll do a bunch more Monero Talk interviews.
I'm here, Jay Berman.
Here's a little Franja.
Oh, yeah. So.
Yeah, I say we wrap it up. All right,
really?
guys.
Do you want to wrap it up? I don't know. It looks like maybe you can keep talking some more.
We're gonna wrap it up live from Prague, MoneroKon. It's been amazing.
It's been awesome. It's been amazing. I mean, it's only Saturday, so
we got a bunch of content that I guess we'll release as Monero Talks. Hoping to get a lot more, and we'll leave it at that. Tux, anything you want to close out with?
No, that's awesome. The conference just ends tomorrow, doesn't it? Just one more day.
Yeah, tomorrow evening. Yep. So we're going strong here for another day.
Yes. Did we end up Did we release the Monero Nodo?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So anybody watching this, please check that out.
We released everything on Friday.
The Monero Nodo Monero Talk, where we go into detail about the project. We had Arctic Mine on, who participated in the project and kind of designing the overall architecture.
We also did it with an interview with him here. So will be really
Yeah.
easy.
But just
Man,
giving
how
people a
awesome
heads
is
up
that
on
having Arctic Mind involved in a project? That's super awesome.
I know. So
Pretty
that was
exciting.
actually a really great combo. Recommend people check that out. Anybody that's interested in Noto, be getting a lot of great feedback on it here, talking to people. And Tux, yeah, I guess I won't announce it now, but I have been talking about the idea that we're working on. I've been talking to people about that as well. I've been getting a lot of great feedback.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
talk to you about that before we start talking about it more publicly.
Ooh, the suspense, guys.
Yeah, we'll give you a little hints. All right, let's wrap it up.
I guess let's wrap it up. Thanks, Tux. Hope you enjoyed the show.
All right.
Yeah,
Cheers.
yeah.
All right, awesome.
Later,
All right,
guys.
Ciao from Prague, my friends. Peace out, people. See you next week. Adios. Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.